Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing? Everyone all right? So I'm going to talk about Assange in a second. I just want to make sure that you've all pressed like on the video, and please tell me where you're tuning in from in the comment section. Okay? So my name is Richard Medhurst, and I've been reporting on the Assange case for about 4 years now since it began, and I'm going to break down the ruling from today. Okay? So tell me if you guys can see the document in front. If you're all right, we should be able to begin. After I've shouted you out, of course, so don't worry. We've got people tuning in from Scotland, from the United States. We've got people tuning in from Australia, from Melbourne, from Argentina, from Kashmir, from Canada, from England, also from Canada. We've got some more people. I'm trying to look at all the platforms because I'm live on Rumble as well. Okay, so you've got people there as well on Rumble from Prague, from Canada, from the United States, from Dallas, Texas, from North Carolina, from Ohio, from Brooklyn, New York, from Portugal, from Hamilton, Canada, Vancouver, beautiful, beautiful, Pakistan, Athens. It's a worldwide list. It's a worldwide list, and I'm glad you're all tuned in because of how important the case is. Okay, I'm gonna tell you some incredible things. Honestly, you think you've heard it all. You think you've heard it all in this Assange case. Believe me, you haven't. Believe me, you have not. My name is Richard Medhurst. I'm a British journalist, and I've been covering Julian Assange's case since it began. Let's go through the ruling today that was passed down by the High Court. They have granted Assange permission to appeal. However, it is but a partial victory. So I'm going to go through the document with you guys. I highlighted a bunch of things that I haven't shown anyone yet, and I wanted to go through them with you. So basically, this means Assange has not exhausted all his legal options in the UK, because today the outcome was that either he can continue inside the English and Welsh justice system, or this is if they would have blocked him, he would have to go to the European Court of Human Rights, as the UK is, of course, still a member of the Council of Europe. That is not the case, however. He has not exhausted those options and can continue. And I just put this video here for those of you who want a summary about the Assange case from the beginning to the end in one single video. And again, it's a legal case, so it's difficult to condense 4 years of hearings. But I did it. I tried my best, and I think you'll find it quite to your liking. This is the video. If you want to watch and understand, or you know what, but you want to share it with some colleagues, that's the one to share. It's this one. I'll link it below afterwards, okay? So it's called Why the United States is Trying to Imprison Julian Assange and Why You Should Care. Now, here are the points that the judges did agree with, because remember that Assange is presenting 9 points to appeal on. They didn't go with everything. They gave him a conditional appeal, okay, and this is to do with the fact that the lower judge, was wrong to send the decision to the Secretary of State, because again, just very briefly, in England, if you're extradited, it's the Foreign Secretary, the Home Secretary, who has the final say. Okay, again, this is illegal to extradite someone if they're going to be given the death penalty. So there are considerations to be made. You cannot just hand the paper to the Home Secretary and then send someone to a country where you know that they're going to be given the death penalty. So here there are 2 things that the judges agreed with. They said that it was wrong for the judge to send it to the Home Secretary, and then wrong for the Home Secretary to sign it. Okay, and they're basically saying here, and I'll switch now. I'll switch over to the full document. Give me a second. So they're saying here, of course, that the United States have a bit of time until which they must there you go. Okay, so they're saying that the respondents, that means the Americans in this case, have permission to file any assurances with the court by the 16th of April 2024. Because they're saying, look, the United States did not provide sufficient assurances that Julian Assange will not be given the death penalty, because this is an absolute must. It's non-negotiable. The United States have to provide assurances that his First Amendment rights will be respected, that he will be treated like an American citizen. Remember that you know, they're basically discriminating against Julian Assange purely based on his nationality, and we know that they will do this for a fact. Okay, and if I go back to my thread here, you know, this is very clear that it will constitute a violation of his right to free speech also. So we have three things: prejudice based on nationality, no right to freedom of expression, and also the death penalty itself. So these are the assurances the United States have to provide. Now, I have to go back a bit to the, you know, the previous assurances that the Americans gave, because what they said before is, okay, we won't put Assange in a hellhole and mistreat him and torture him there. That's the best we can offer you. And oh, by the way, we give ourselves the right to withdraw from these assurances. Okay. So basically, you can't trust them because, you know, someone who's promising you something and then saying inside the promise that they can withdraw from the promise isn't promising you anything at all, are they? They're not promising very much. So, you know, they have to add to that these three things. Now, they have a deadline. They have until the 16th of April. If they do not do this, if the Americans do not file any assurances, in that case, they will give Assange leave to appeal on grounds 4, 5, and 9. So these are pertaining to the points that I just mentioned. And if the Americans do provide assurances, then what happens is that there's a bit of ping pong, basically, back and forth. Okay. The Americans file by the 16th of April, and then Assange's team have until the 30th of April, so about 2 weeks, to reply. And then the Secretary of State, the Home Secretary, has until the 14th, and so another 2 weeks to reply. And then, you know, if that is the case, then there will also be a hearing on the 20th of May. So you see, it's back and forth. Meanwhile, Assange is sitting in prison, and you know, the whole process is being dragged out, is being elongated, and you know, to the detriment of his health. So you have to keep that in mind. Now, they have refused grounds. They have refused leave to appeal on several grounds, which I'll go through now in a second. Which are, I mean, they're frankly quite funny. The way that they write in this judgment, and again, it's about 66 pages. So I had to, you know, I was sitting through it all day reading it, and it's really quite something, honestly. I mean, I've picked out some bits that are going to make you laugh because of how absurd they are. So let me go through what I wrote here. Right. So this point is very funny. They say here that the primary complaint that Assange is making is that the judge, they're talking about the lower court judge, she didn't take into consideration that Assange had exposed, you know, criminal behavior on the part of the United States, and that this basically amounts to a protected political act. And she didn't consider that, you know, well, the whole indictment, the extradition, is punishment, right? Assange exposed the US government, so now the US government want to punish him by extraditing him and throwing him in jail. She didn't, you know, she just didn't touch this at all, which is true. But here's the reasoning of the judges, of the high court judges, why they agree with the lower court judge. They say that, sure, we agree that Assange did this out of political conviction, right? When he published the leaks, the documents, and that these documents expose serious crimes on behalf of the US government. They accept all of this. But they say it does not follow, however, that the request for his extradition is made on account of his political views. The authorities relied on by Assange's lawyer do not establish the contrary. I mean, they, I don't know. It's like trying to prove a negative. You know, it's like, I mean, it's so absurd. It's like, how can you reason with someone like this? And then they say that basically, the lower court judge was correct to come to this conclusion that the Americans are not prosecuting Assange because of, you know, what he has done and because of his political opinions. How is this so? How did the judges come to this conclusion? Very simple. They say an American official, Kronberg, who is a federal prosecutor, came to the court and he testified to the court, right? I remember this. And he told the court that he is acting out of good faith. That's it. That's the proof. Oh, and the killer at the end, quite literally, is this: that Julian Assange does not accuse Mr. Kronberg of dishonesty. That in itself is fatal to this aspect of the applicant's case. Here I can only agree. Here I actually agree with the judges. The fact that Julian Assange did not accuse the federal prosecutor of being a dishonest man is bad and fatal to this argument. I agree, because he should have done this. He should have said, I don't recognize the legitimacy of this person, this official. He is coming to kill me. He is lying to the court to get me in a super maximum prison. I mean, obviously, Assange's lawyers are making this case. Don't get me wrong, but they should have accused this man of dishonesty. And obviously, by you can also always perceive this implicitly, that they're saying he's dishonest without really saying it, and that maybe this is the better path to go with, because you don't want to appear like you're being too, you know, bold to the judges. I don't know. I'm just telling you that this is my opinion from what I've seen, and that the point here is I mean, it's quite ludicrous. I mean, okay, let's say, fine, Assange and his lawyers did not accuse the federal prosecutor of being dishonest. Fine. And the case is still political. That doesn't change anything. Mr. Assange could have zero legal defense. Julian Assange could stay silent without uttering a word, and the case against him would still be political. What difference does it make? I mean, you know, this is obvious. Anyway, let me continue. So now we go to the part about the CIA wanting to kill Julian Assange. And I mean, I understand that the judges want to pretend like, oh, this isn't true and so on. But let's read what they wrote, and you can perceive perhaps how you know how ridiculous this is. So they're saying here that the rationale, okay, of the United States wanting to extradite Julian Assange during the time of the when he was in the embassy, they say that it is removed if the applicant is extradited, that extradition would result in him being lawfully in the custody of the United States, and the reasons, if they can be called that, for rendition or kidnapping or assassination then fall away. Wow. So basically they're saying, well, look, even if the United States want to kill, kidnap, or render Julian Assange, it doesn't matter because we're going to do it for them. Right? Because this is an extradition to the United States. So if we're sending him to the United States, then I mean, there's no need for the Americans to poison him, is there? Or to kill him or to kidnap him. Yes, I suppose when you put it that way, but you're doing it for them. That's why. I swear to God, it's something funny. You really have to read it again. Extradition would result in Assange being lawfully in the custody of the United States authorities, and the reasons, if they can be called that, for rendition, kidnap, or assassination then fall away. Yeah, I guess they do, but it's still wrong. But it's still wrong, and they fall away. They fall away because you're doing it for them. You're killing him for them. You're killing Assange for the Americans. When I say you, I mean our justice system, if it can be called that. And so this is it. This is everything. This is it. This is everything. The judges think that Mr. Kronberg is an honest individual because he said so, and no one questioned this. And the judges think that it doesn't matter that they want to kidnap or kill or render Mr. Assange because the extradition does that for them. Yes, I I suppose one can say that. And do they think that these points are worth discussing? No. Doesn't matter. So the only thing that can be appealed now are the assurances. Now, I don't think that the US government are going to back down from this case because we have had two successive administrations of gangsters from Donald Trump to Joe Biden prosecuting Julian Assange. First, the Trump administration, Mike Pompeo, the CIA director back then, and Donald Trump, together orchestrating this case against Julian Assange and then handing it over to Joe Biden to continue. No, they are not going to back down, especially during an election year, especially when Gaza is and Ukraine, they are not going to back down. I mean, they are killers and they are killing every day. Why would you think they care about one journalist? No, of course not. I mean, I hate to say it so boldly, but yeah, this is who we're dealing with. They're killers, and then of course you have to consider that they had 4 years to do this, the Biden administration. I mean, if they would do it now, it would almost just be sadistic, honestly. It would almost just be sadistic. I'm sorry for that. I had some music playing. It would almost be sadistic if they were to drop it now. And I'll show you one last thing. Look at the language in the case against Julian Assange. They say that the treaty violations are non-existent. So the reason for this is that they say, yes, up until 1989, you had all these extradition laws that said you cannot extradite someone for a political offense. And they say this evaporated with 2003, and so now it's okay. So basically, let's put aside the hundreds of years of extradition, of customary extradition law that forbid you for sending someone to their death or to a foreign country because of their political opinions, and we're just going to go ahead with what they said in 2003. And on top of that, they say here that turning to 2003, the starting point is that the language of Section 81 is clear. It precludes extradition where extradition is for the purpose of prosecuting the requested person on account of their political opinions. It says nothing, however, about prosecuting, preventing extradition for a political offense. Although there may be a degree of overlap, the two are separate concepts. Yeah, I mean, sure, you know, why don't you go ahead and start debating the difference between poisoning and assassination? You know, there's obviously a degree of overlap over there, right? I might poison someone without killing them, but if I assassinate them, maybe I'm killing them with and without poison. I mean, this is really funny. This is really funny, and it's dozens and dozens of pages of this rubbish, where they're acting, they're really splitting hairs and acting like it doesn't cover this. I'm sorry. The extradition treaty covers this, and the extradition act covers this, and they're doing this on purpose to go deeper and deeper and deeper into into an affair and a process of splitting hairs, just for the sake of letting the extradition go ahead. And here we have another similar situation with 2021 with the previous ruling, where it looks like it sounds good, okay. It looks like it could be okay, but then you read into it and you understand what the game is. So last time they said no extradition because of his health. Then we had 2 years of debating, you know, whether he's sick enough or not. And then now they're trying to make it about the assurances, which we've already gone through, by the way. Remember, since October 2021, we've been talking about assurances. I mean, Jesus, I haven't even brought up Mendoza, right? I haven't even brought up the Mendoza case. This is a case that was mentioned by Julian's lawyers, and they show you, I mean, with not just his case, but numerous other cases, how they lied. The Americans lied. They say all sorts of nice things, and then once the person is in, you know, on U.S. soil, they put them into a hellhole without any medical, promises fulfilled or legal promises fulfilled. All sorts of things about their condition, their charges, which is really something that a banana republic would do. You know, like saying that, yeah, we want to prosecute someone for A, and then when they get to the other country, they have prosecution X and F. This is something that the Americans don't even deny. Okay, so I had the U.S. lawyer in front of me saying that, you know, they and the judges asked these questions, so it's not like there's any ambiguity here. The judges directly asked this question: what is there anything to stop the United States from piling on new charges once Assange is in America? And the U.S. lawyer says, no, there's nothing stopping them. He can do this any moment. You know, is there another question? Is there anything to stop the United States from giving him the death penalty once he's in U.S. soil? And the U.S. lawyer says no. So there's a direct question, a very specific question about death penalty, about additional charges, and a very specific answer that both lead to one conclusion, to only one single comprehension, which is that the Americans will kill and can kill Assange. Make no mistake about it. I mean, we are not even considering the current charges themselves. I mean, 175 years is obviously going to kill someone either way. And if you give them 50 years, at 50 years, you will kill them either way. Yes? So it all leads back to the same conclusion. And the Americans are not pretending to do otherwise. So I'm a bit complexed here, because when they go to fulfill these assurances by April 16th, I don't see them honoring anything that they say. They might come and say, okay, well, we give Assange, First Amendment rights, or they'll say it like, we promise to treat him equal to a U.S. citizen, whatever that means. And then once he gets to America and there's a trial, they'll argue in court, well, we promised to treat him like a U.S. citizen, but we didn't promise him specifically First Amendment rights. This is the exact fucking bullshit that Americans will do. I swear to God.
guarantee you anything you like. They will say, we promise to treat him like an American citizen or give him the rights of an American citizen. And then they will go and say, well, he doesn't actually have US citizenship and this wasn't a legally binding contract. So actually, we don't really have to give him those rights, or we can give him everything else except the First Amendment rights, which we preclude. Specific farce, like the exact farce. And I'll show you here. This is Mendoza's case. So again, I'll put it up on the screen for you so you can see that. Give me a second because I'm switching between them. So yes, you see this? This is the work that I did on a man called David Mendoza, who is a friend, and as I was investigating. I didn't know him, of course, until I began covering his case and interviewing him multiple times and researching the topic. And I published these documents here. You can see, for example, just to show you that we are going nowhere with this case. Just to show you how screwed, forgive me, Assange is, because even if the Americans give the court and the country, rather, what they want, and they allow the extradition, it's very, very bad. So here, for example, these are diplomatic promises made by the Americans to the Spanish government, and they say that he can go to. So basically, we'll bring him from Spain to America. We'll try him, and then we'll send him back to you. Okay? Complete lie from the first moment. Right? And look how they say it. They say, as further indicated, it does not object to Mendoza making an application to serve a sentence in Spain. That's not the same thing. Any prisoner in the world can make an application to serve their sentence in a foreign country. It's a right that you have. It's not something that you need to be specifically written out. The Strasbourg Treaty covers this. But you see how they try to put one over and hoodwink foreign governments. It's so funny. And I mean, it's not just foreign governments. These are lawyers reading this. They should know these games. But again, I'll read this to you, for example, right? They say the Western District of Washington at Seattle does not object to him making an application to serve his sentence in Spain. Then the Spanish say, no, this is too weak. We want stronger assurances. Hey, guess what? That's where we are right now with the Assange case this morning. Except the difference is that it's Mendoza's lawyers who then got the Spanish government, the judiciary to force the executive into giving stronger assurances. But right now we're sort of at a similar threshold, right? The judiciary is telling the Americans these assurances are too weak. We want stronger ones. So in Mendoza's case, he was very lucky. He got a contract. So a contract is something that is legally binding. You cannot, say, well, I didn't promise this or I didn't mean this. No, it's a contract. Look, it's got signatures on it, right? Sirene Madrid, that's the Spanish authorities, and then Embajada, it says United States Embassy, and then of course the extraditee Mendoza. So they signed this, and then do you think they upheld their promises? No, they broke it anyway. So you can't win with the Americans. I don't mean that in the sense of ultimate victory. I just mean like they just they always find a way to wiggle out. It's seriously like the most unjust banana republic on the steroids, on unbelievable steroids. Can we take you? Can we extradite you? Oh, okay. Well, we'll just lie to the government and then take you anyway and torture you. Oh, and if we can't do that, well, we'll just kidnap you. And actually, if we even if we can extradite you, we'll just kidnap you and torture you anyway because it's faster to kidnap you than to take you legally, even though we already own this foreign government. It's like pure banana republic. I mean, again, we should call it something else like passion fruit republic because of how bad it is, and I don't like passion fruit. So, this is what we're dealing with. This is what we are dealing with. And then, of course, to show you just how banana republic These are, look at the contract. You see the contract on the left? This is the original. And so Mendoza gets to the United States and he says, hey, can you give me a copy of the contract that we signed together that proves that I have to go back to Spain because you're not sending me back? And the Americans give him a copy without his signature, so he can't go to the government or go to the courts. They just they fucking photoshopped his name and signature out of the contract. I mean, have you ever seen something so ridiculous? I mean, this is a government literally falsifying its own documents. I have never seen anything like this. I've never seen anything like this. Unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. This is who the British government is asking by April 16th to give assurances. This is who the British government is requesting assurances from. I mean, really the first time round in 2021, 2022, they shouldn't have been believed anyway. But if there's, I mean, I really can't repeat this enough. It's really, really a bad idea to believe anything the U.S. government says. And it's disturbing, actually, that the judges write things like this. I'll show you here. This is from 2021, from the original ruling, where the British judge says that federal prosecutors are bound by principles similar to those in the CPS to ensure the fair and effective exercise of prosecutorial discretion, which means to act without political bias or motivation. Mr. Kronberg is one of the prosecutors involved. He states that he unequivocally that this prosecution is founded on objective evidence of criminality. I have been given no reason. I mean, she's basically, she's kissing his backside. Like excuse me, are you a representative of the U.S. government? The guy himself didn't speak about himself this way. I mean, you're making him. You're making the case for the Americans and then saying, yes, this man is of the utmost integrity. I believe him. He acts without bias. He is objective. He is the best in the world. Oh my God, I love him. Yes, he is acting in good faith. This is a legitimate prosecution. And the judges today find, nothing wrong with this. Okay. So you understand what happened now. I think you can, you get the idea of what a banana republic, process this is, and that's it. That's where we're at. So, as I said, I mean, they basically, the 3 points that Assange, these are the 3 points the Americans have to now provide assurances on. That Assange has First Amendment protections, that he'll be treated like a U.S. citizen and not discriminated, based on his nationality, and that it doesn't violate Article 10 of the European Convention on Human Rights, which ensures freedom of expression, and that he will never face the death penalty, right? So these are the 3 things, right? And I don't know what the Americans are going to say, but I know that they will lie. And I know this because I have evidence and proof of them lying before and then lying again. And, I think, again, it's like trying to prove a negative when you're saying this man showed that these people are criminals, and now the same people are trying to prosecute him. I mean, how can you disconnect these 2 things? I don't understand why the judges think these 2 things are separate. And that's their only evidence. So again, like she says the lower district judge, that no, I think the prosecution is legitimate because the federal prosecutor is honest. Okay, and what about the CIA trying to kill him? Are the CIA honest? No. Who cares? Doesn't matter. It's an ongoing thing. So this is what we're dealing with. These are very deranged talking points and ways of seeing things. And I can assure you that were Mr. Assange, were Julian, somebody else, and were this another government, they would have blocked it a long time ago already. because of how ridiculous it is and how egregious. And again, you know, even if you want to play this out, there's no need for him to be in prison. I remind you, he's in a maximum security prison. I'll show you a clip. This is from Stella, from his wife, when she was speaking today at the court. Give me a second. Here she is.
Is astounding. The courts recognize that Julian is exposed to a flagrant denial of his freedom of expression rights, that he is being discriminated against on the basis of his nationality, an Australian, and that he remains exposed to the death penalty. And yet, what the courts have done have been to invite a political intervention from the United States to send a letter saying it's all okay. I find this astounding. 5 years into this case, the United States has managed to show the court that their case remains an attack on press freedom, an attack on Julian's life. What the courts haven't agreed to look at is the evidence that the United States has plotted to assassinate Julian, to kidnap him, because if it acknowledges that, then of course he can't be sent to the United States. Julian is a political prisoner, he is a journalist, and he is being persecuted because he exposed the true cost of war in human lives. This case is a retribution, it is a signal to all of you that if you expose the interests that are driving war, they will come after you. They will put you in prison and they will try to kill you. Julian is just a few days away from the 5th anniversary of his arrest and imprisonment in Belmarsh prison. He has been in Belmarsh for 5 years without conviction, and the charges against him are to punish him for publishing the truth, for publishing evidence of the war crimes committed by the country that is trying to extradite him. Now, the UK courts have invited the United States to issue assurances. The Biden administration should not issue assurances. They should drop this shameful case that should never have been brought. Julian should never have been imprisoned for a single day. This is a shame on every democracy. Julian is a political prisoner. He is a publisher, and he is being published for expressing his political opinion, for expressing freedom of the press in its purest form. Free Julian. I ask everyone to rally behind him and call for his freedom, call for the Biden administration to drop the case and support House Resolution 934 before the US Congress to drop this case. Thank you. Have you spoken to Julian?
Yes, well, more than correct. More than correct. How scandalous the case is, and you know, I think we'll leave it at that. So, of course, if there are any updates about Assange, I will have them for you, you know, instantly on Twitter, and then of course here on the YouTube channel. And there's a body of work that I've done. You can find it here. For example, if you look at this thread, I've got day one of the. This is referring to day one of the latest hearing, which happened on February 20th, and then also on the 21st in London. So I was there, and this is day one of that. Thread of day one of that hearing, day one video. Then the thread, the live thread, and the video, and then here's my coverage from 2020, from the High Court 2021. So I've tried to condense all of it here in an easy to navigate link, and I'm pasting that right now in the chat for you so that you can just simply click on it afterwards. And then, so just give me a second. I'm putting it on Rumble, and I'm putting it also on YouTube. And then there's also this video I did at the top of today's thread, where the whole Assange case is explained. I've pasted that also in the description now for you guys. So make sure to check those out if you're unfamiliar with the case, because once you familiarize yourself, once you are well versed with it, you will find that it is a fascinating, saga in the worst way possible. And the only thing you can do is protest it, really. So, thank you to Gold Alchemist for the video. I will put that on afterwards, because I'm gonna get to that subject anyway. And thank you for the donation. Also, I had some donations also sent earlier that I wanted to say thank you to. Give me a moment to read them out. And we've got one here. This is from Maria. Says they officially have zero shame now. They are like deranged, untamed beasts. They don't care that the world can see the obliteration of rights, with everyone having a screen in front of them, in front of our faces 24/7. There is no way that they can, that they will be able to preach freedom of any kind if Assange is extradited. Sadly, they are still going to continue. Yes, and I agree with you, because it's on so many fronts. I mean, if you want to, as we said, we want to talk about freedom of expression, then look at the journalists in Gaza. Look at journalists in London, like Julian. Look at also people who are imprisoned in, other political prisoners in Europe. I'm actually going to talk about one of them right now. I was planning on doing that instantly after this. So I completely agree with you. And then if you let's go from, for example, human rights to I don't know, environmental. You just look at the environment in the Middle East, how the ground, for example, has, oil and other pollutants, chemical weapons polluting the ground and seeping in there, and then, killing people. So there's like every level, a cake, if you will, or a lasagna of not human and animal and environmental rights, but just destruction. That's what they are offering and bringing to the place. Truly. And we go back to the Middle East, of course, because what are the bulk of the documents, not numerically, but when we talk about their importance, most of the stuff Assange published has to do with the Middle East. Guantanamo Bay prisoners, Afghanistan, Iraq, although Afghanistan is obviously further east. I just want to say that there are other things, like, for example, even the judges themselves today acknowledge where, and I'll show you right now in the document. For example, in Bangladesh, the British government was training death squads. Here, let me pull this up. Right. So yeah, actually it's good I brought this up, because you can then see how they are very clear and conscious
I wasn't saying that their conscience is clear, but they are very clear in their language and conscious of what is happening. For example, they say the applicant, meaning Assange, has provided extensive evidence that of state criminality, right? And this includes evidence of illegal rendition, torture, black sites, CIA prisons across Europe, extrajudicial assassinations in Afghanistan and Pakistan, subversion of prosecutions of U.S. personnel, drone strikes in Yemen, which have been denied by the respondent. That's the only thing the Americans denied. It's the drone strikes in Yemen. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that the point was they were drone striking an American citizen in Yemen, which is still true, and beyond, obviously. And the United Kingdom training death squads in Bangladesh. And then they talk about the collateral murder video here. And what's incredible is that the reason they're mentioning this in the ruling is not to say, wow, look, actually this explains why the government wants to jail Assange. Look at all these crimes he exposed. No. It's the opposite. They're saying, yes, we can see all these crimes that Julian Assange exposed about this government, but we don't think that this has anything to do with the case. Again, it's like you're telling someone 1 + 1 = 2, and they just refuse to believe it. They say prove it, and you prove it, and they still no. We know it's 3. Of course, it's always been 3. Look, because 1 + 1 = 2, it equals 3. This is what can I say? To me, this just shows they're complicit, honestly, and I have the feeling that they are going to accept those assurances. They will accept them. They will be garbage, and they will accept them. Either way. The assurances could say, the Americans could say, we are going to crucify Julian Assange, kill him, and then, put him back in prison after he's dead. And the UK government will say, yes, we accept this. This is in line with the Human Rights Act. Yeah, it is. We promise it, but it is. This is who we're dealing with. Okay? Anyway, back to the... we went off on a bit of a tangent there, but nevertheless, thank you for the donations. And we have another one here from Shamsul, who says, for your hard work, bro. Thank you. I'm most grateful. And thank you to Ash, Bookworm, and Fran, who joined on Patreon. I'll play you guys a crab dance in due time. Again, this is like it's a bittersweet victory, if you can call it that, right? A bittersweet victory. So let me continue now, and we'll talk about I want to talk about something that happened in Yemen. Okay, so this is breaking news. This is from Yemen. The Yemeni resistance have struck 4 American and British ships. These are, of course, commercial ships that they were referring to. And then in addition to that, they struck 2 US destroyers. Again, destroyers are simply a class of military naval vessels that are used. So basically 2 US Navy destroyers. And in addition to that, the Israelis had their port struck all the way in Eilat, which is called Rashrash before the Israelis bastardized it. So again, that's down here at the on the Red Sea, and the Yemenis have struck from 1,600 kilometers at the very least to hit that port. You can see the variety of capabilities and weapons available to them in their arsenal. I mean, to hit Eilat, you're using cruise missiles. For the ships, they're using ballistic missiles. If we talk about the destroyers as well, they're using drones. We know for a fact they use drones in this specific attack. So I mean, all of this is stuff that is happening, and the Americans are keeping it on the down low because of how bad it is, how embarrassing it is. And of course, in addition to that, you have rockets and other, I put in quotation marks, small arms, obviously small compared to missiles, I want to show you something that caught my eye as I was collating and compiling and collecting these stories and news items for you. I came across a piece in the Associated Press about Yemen, and it said here that an Al-Qaeda attack in Yemen had killed 2 troops loyal to a secessionist group. Now, if I can just translate what they're talking about, this is they're not talking about the Houthis, okay? Don't get it twisted. They're not talking about Al-Qaeda attacking the Houthis or something like that. What they're saying is that Al-Qaeda are back in the game, okay? You know, these groups in Yemen, you have Al-Qaeda that have their own war with these minor groups, and then at the same time, together they will work against the Houthis, against Yemen itself. Remember that they want to portray the Houthis as like some tiny group or something in Yemen. The majority of the Yemeni population, 80%, 8 with a 0, live in territories controlled by the Houthis. They view the Houthis as the legitimate government. The international government in Yemen is a bunch of hotel dwellers in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. They're not even in Yemen half the time, and they've done things like, for example, they'll close down the and they did this before. They closed down the central bank and they moved it. They haven't paid wages, for example, to people who work who are civil servants who work in the administrative functions that in the Yemeni government or otherwise that should be paid by the government. They say we're the government, but they don't pay anyone. So they're a bunch of buffoons. I mean, no one takes them seriously. So just to make that very clear, when they're talking about Al-Qaeda here, the Americans are reactivating these cells in Yemen to harass the Houthis from the back, from inside, right? Because they're losing. The Americans are losing. They're being hit constantly and they can't respond. The blockade against Israel, they've been unable to lift it. Okay, so my analysis that I provide to you is that the Americans are reactivating Al-Qaeda, and this is a trend that we have been seeing. It's a trend. Have the Americans done something similar to this, recently? Yes. What did we have in Iran on the 4th of January this year? What happened? There was suddenly, magically, a terrorist attack by quote-unquote ISIS-K, and then their communique looked all messed up, and their announcements looked all messed up. The photographs, the pictures didn't fit the bill. And so, very, very questionable. And this happened at the same time the Israelis were assassinating people in Beirut. And so that's number one. What just happened in Russia? I'll talk about that in a second separately. So yes, you have a history of the Americans, and we know who created ISIS and Al-Qaeda anyway. So I mean, even if you want to say this has nothing to do with them, Al-Qaeda exists because the Americans gave weapons to the Mujahideen. It exists because after the Soviets were defeated, the Americans continued to work with Ayman al-Zawahiri and with Osama bin Laden. They continued to work with Al-Qaeda, and to this day, right? It is not past tense. They continue to work with Al-Qaeda. The Israelis continue to work with Al-Qaeda. And the same with ISIS. These are their proxies. So this is an attack from the rear. It's not a significant one. It's not going to change any realities on the ground. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention because while Yemen is pulling off things like this, the Americans are getting very frustrated. The Israelis getting very frustrated, and that's how they respond, albeit in a limited, smaller fashion. Keep in mind also that the Indian Ocean is now, just going back to the map, the Indian Ocean is covered by the Yemeni resistance. So, this is a response to Yemen's extension of the area of operations, okay? Because before they were eating losses anyway, they were taking losses and Yemen were bleeding them. But now it's gotten even more serious, If you want to go around, you're going to lose money. You're going to lose time. But if you can't go around at all, you're screwed. Okay, so that's a major development. The Israelis and the Americans will often respond in these ways where you suddenly have a terrorist attack in the country, inexplicable, an isolated incident, and then, you know, all the information around it doesn't fit the identity and the traits and the modus operandi, the MO of the perpetrator. This is what you have to understand. It's more significant when I talk now about Russia. It's much more significant. But this is nevertheless a weird, all of a sudden, Al-Qaeda popping up on the map. I mean, I've done work on Yemen extensively, and they occupy swaths of Yemen. They have, for example, checkpoints set up across the highways to rob people, to you know, every territory. Keep in mind, they're not big, but every group, for example, will occupy a small area here. Then a few kilometers later, they occupy another area, and they have their own taxes that they levy against anyone who tries to pass. And of course, you know, when you have a situation where previously, up until last year, there was a huge effort by the Americans and the Saudis and this Gulf Council to attack Yemen, they turned the economy upside down. So you had a lot of supplies that were meant for people in Sana'a. Instead of going through Hodeidah, they had to reroute them over here from Aden, and then go through all these stupid, you know, checkpoints, losing money. And then by the time they get to Sana'a, they cost a fortune. So, you know, that's another crime they committed against the Yemeni people. And if you haven't read the paper I published, I will link it below so you can read about how bad the blockade was. I mean, it's like, for example, what the Israelis are doing to Gaza. It's exactly the same thing. You know, make the trucks queue up, make the trucks divert, make the trucks jump through hoops. Exactly this. There's something else I wanted to show you over here. This is from Germany, okay? And So this is a story that was reported on in Germany by Der Spiegel, and they're saying now that naturalization tests, meaning when you want to become a citizen, a German citizen, you have to take a test, and they're going to have questions about well, they say it's about Jewish history or Jewish life in Germany, but it's the timing of it is obviously linked to Zionism, okay? So, for example, you know, they will have down here. Let me scroll down and put you, because keep in mind, I have the German version, but I translated it for you on the screen so you can just see it directly. So, for example, they will have something about the Holocaust. Okay, fine. We all know that that's genocide is a German specialty. We all know that. But they have things, for example, about when Israel was founded. I mean, what does that have to do with German history? Could someone explain that to me? Because they want it to be linked in people's minds, but they have nothing to do with each other. Israel was quote unquote founded because the British pulled out, and we handed it over to the United Nations, meaning we handed it over to the Zionist terrorists, to the Israelis. It's literally nothing to do with Germany. The Israelis, the Zionists, were moving to Palestine 40 years earlier already, even 50 years earlier. There was World War I had not even happened, but at that point, it has nothing to do with Germany. But they want you they want you to think it does. So this is weird. Then they say also they want to ask people how Holocaust denial is punished in the country. Yeah, okay. I mean, who's talking about the Holocaust? Why are they bringing up the Holocaust at this moment in time? These questions are obviously linked to what's happening in Gaza. So, you know, rather than just report about what's happening in Gaza, the German media and the government are selling weapons. Remember, it's not like Germany has nothing to do with this, and therefore why should they talk about it? No. Germany is providing more weapons than anyone to the Israelis, second only to the Americans. Okay? So they have absolutely everything to do with this. And rather than just talk about what's happening in Palestine, they send the weapons, they censor protests, they ban protests and censor people, punish them for wearing Palestinian scarves, and then on top of it, they reinforce the propaganda that they have, that Israel has a right to exist because of the Holocaust. If that's true, then they can give a piece of Germany to the Jews that they killed, right? Land reparations are a common form of punishment for genocide or for losing wars. So, well, you know, Germany's very big. They can easily give the Jews that they killed some land, right? What does this have to do with Palestine? I have no clue what this has to do with Palestine. Nothing to do with it. So, I mean, you know, you're saying Germany kills Jews and then Palestinians have to pay for that? What is that shit? So, you know, this is something, it's not new, by the way, this logic, but it is new that they're putting it in the naturalization test, okay? This Staatsräson, which is basically like Germany's reason of being, reason for being. It's something that is incredible. It's basically they have it ingrained in their heads. And I mean, you know, once again we come to the idea that because Germany committed a Holocaust against the Soviet Union and they killed 27 million people and a good chunk of them, 6 million, were Jewish, that somehow Palestinians have to give their land away and be called terrorists. I mean, you know, this is the bottom line. Make no mistake. Every way you look at it, you come to the same conclusion. They are saying we did the crime and we want Palestinians to do the time. Just a bit of you know, German absurdity that I thought I should tell you about. And besides, I mean, Germany shouldn't even exist today. It shouldn't exist. It shouldn't. It is a criminal entity. Everything bad comes out of Germany. World War I, World War II, the Cold War, the Holocaust, which they're talking about. What about, for example, Namibia, the genocide in Namibia? Right now, the genocide in Gaza, the Germans are making money from this by selling weapons. The genocides that they've committed all across the world as a colonial empire, the fact that Henry Kissinger is a fucking German, the Rothschild family are Germans. I mean, everything bad ever has come out of Germany. It's really incredible when you start to think about it. Even the royal family in England are Germans. They changed their name during World War I because it was some ugly monstrosity. I'll show it to you just so you can. I mean, it's really something. This is King Charles. This is his real name, right? It's a nasty German name. And they changed it to Windsor because they were afraid of anti-German sentiment. So everything bad in the world comes from Germany. I promise you, think about it and you'll see it's true. Not to mention, of course, the bunch of Nazis that they moved over with paperclip to the United States, and then the ones that they had running around training people, you know, in torture in Latin America and so on. The whole rat line of Nazis that exists to this day in Ukraine. So let me talk about Russia with you. Because today they had the first day of court, right, for the of trial for these 4 accused. So give me a second to bring this up. Thank you to again to Fran and to Ash and Bookworm. I owe you guys a crab dance in a second, and also thank you to Ainav for the super chat, who says merci pour ton travail. Free Assange, free Palestine. Merci à toi. Thank you very much.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line. claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome.
Thank you.
والله انت كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
China.
And you ain't black.
There's always the macro.
And then there's the micro.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You talking to me? Ladies and gentlemen,
I'll have 2 number 9s. A number 9 large.
we got him.
Because I have to do it myself. I know it's not.
I've fallen and I can't get up. Disgusting!
She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
We'll do it live! Fuck it! Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Why you text Sender? Why? Oh, you're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it! I yield my time! Fuck you!
Thank you again to everyone who is supporting the show, as the channel is being attacked for telling the truth about Israel and the things that they want to hide in the mainstream media from you and in the education system. Let's talk about Russia and the irregularities surrounding what happened. So the 4 culprits that they arrested in Russia after the attack, where you had well over 100 people killed and almost 200 wounded, have now appeared in court. Okay, so this is after the concert hall attack. They've had their first day of court, and you know, I'm not here to show you their photographs because I'm not interested in that. What I want to talk to you about are the irregularities, because it's been a few days now and you've had various bits and pieces coming out of, well, who are these people and are they really part of ISIS? What is ISIS doing in Russia? So, you know, the first thing that happened is that you had the media in the United States saying ISIS did this. And the Russians hadn't even uttered the names of these perpetrators, of the people that they had arrested or that they thought were responsible. They hadn't posted or shared their photographs with anyone. So how could the American media, who can't even tell you the time or the weather honestly, how could they know this was ISIS when the Russians had said absolutely nothing? This is problem number 1. Then, on top of that, they say that because of these photographs that they released, okay, that this proves it was ISIS. Okay, they have their whole statement, and they have this one too. And I'll tell you, there's a problem here with what they're doing, because ISIS usually they show their faces, they don't hide their faces. I mean, in their mind, they're going off to you know, they're going off to martyr themselves. Okay, so this is something to be proud of. Why would you hide your face? The even bigger problem, the more flagrant issue, is that they are holding their left hands up. Okay, so again, can you see this very clearly? How they have their left hands held up? There's something very, very wrong with this, because you don't do that. You know, Muslims, they simply don't raise the left hand when they're martyring themselves. They just don't. It's the right hand. I'm not a Muslim, but I know what I'm talking about. It's with the right hand, not the left one. and you had some people I saw sharing the image with, basically flipped around to make it look like they have the right hand up, but then of course the Arabic text in the back would look all wrong. This is how they took the photo, because the text is reading the right way, and they have the wrong finger up, and it's not one of them or two of them, it's literally all of them. They're all doing this. So for me, this indicates these people have no idea what they're doing. They are dressing up and pretending to be ISIS. I don't even know if these are the same people that actually carried out the attack. It could be some idiots at the CIA. It could be some idiots at anywhere. I don't know. I'm just telling you, it doesn't fit. And if you're someone who's martyring yourselves, you don't do these kind of mistakes. It's ridiculous. All right. So these are the other irregularities. Then, of course, I want to show you this very excellent write-up here by my good friend Elijah. And he also shares my skepticism. And he says here that, the text they released, this communique, they say muqatilin, that this is atypical. So yes, I mean, muqatilin is fighters, right? There's something particularly wrong with it, but he says it's simply irregular. Usually, they will use mujahideen or istashhadeen, those who have been martyred, or the ones who are battling their jihad. So that's correct. You will see those terms much, much more than you will see this word, but that's not all. Then, for example, the statement that they had withdrawn safely. Why would you withdraw if you're going to martyr yourself? The whole point is that you die in battle. This is like a Viking who wants to go to Valhalla, but they just throw their weapon to the side. What do you mean? You're supposed to hold the damn thing. Then, ISIS don't use voice changers in their communiques. Correct? Even Jihadi John, right? He pitched his voice, which I don't even know what the point of that was, because you could tell it's him. But anyway, you don't use it, right? When you're speaking Arabic on top of it. Then of course the live broadcast. This is also something irregular and very, very, difficult to pull off, because your reception might be poor. You're inside of a concert hall. You don't even know if it's going to work. They might record themselves, but they're not going to broadcast it. And then, he simply finishes by saying that this shows that the claims of ISIS involvement in the Moscow attack should be discounted in his opinion, and I absolutely agree. There are other indicators here that tell me that this was not ISIS. The timing, right? I'm not just a journalist, I'm a geopolitical analyst, and I'm telling you that the timing of this is very off. What has happened in recent weeks in the world that could anger someone to attack Russia? Because look, you have to consider, this wasn't Tanzania who did this, right? It's not going to be Chile. It's not going to be Syria. Who did this? Who would want to cause this level of terror inside of Russia, in the capital, in Moscow, and have the ability to evade the security services as well? You have to consider, it's not just a question of wanting to hurt the Russians. It's, are you able to circumvent their security apparatus? Who can do that? Okay, so we had Vladimir Putin winning the elections. Overwhelmingly voted in favor of him. I didn't even bother doing a video about it, because what's the point? We know that the people in Russia love him. Maybe you don't like that, or you don't believe that. I don't care. This is a fact. So he won the elections. Ukraine are getting, they're getting bulldozed, right? They're getting gobsmacked and smacked down at the same time on the battlefield. And on top of that, the elections also included those territories. So that was sort of another nail in Ukraine's coffin, right? We all know that Gaza has been the focus, but nevertheless, the war on the ground for Ukraine, was lost even before Gaza. And I showed that to you when we talked about Russia's defenses, which, killed any spring offensive. Then on top of that, Russia and China just a few days ago concluded a security deal with the Yemenis, right? So that their ships are safe. I mean, they had safe passage anyway, but just to cement things, that Russian and Chinese ships could pass through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, up the Red Sea, unhindered, with complete safety, uninhibited. And in exchange, Russia and China would offer political support to the Yemenis, for example, in the United Nations Security Council. And then, of course, we have all of these three things happening. You'll forgive me because I had a fourth, and now I've completely bloody forgotten the thing, and I'm really angry I didn't write them down. Because I come on these live streams and sit here for like 3 hours with you, and I have zero notes. Anyway, on the world stage, who would this anger? Who would be so angered by this and also have the capabilities of pulling off such an attack? I'm sorry, the answer here to me is very clear. It's the United States. It could be the United States with Ukraine. Remember that we have to look at the history. Does the United States have a history of attacking the Russians in such a manner? Up until 2 years ago, I would have said no. But after the Nord Stream bombing, anything goes. The Nord Stream bombing was done by the Americans. This is absolutely clear. And so they crossed the line here and really went too far. Now they've crossed another line. Because let me be very clear. I'm not saying that Russia should respond in kind. But if they wanted to, believe me, they could. And they could make this, they could wreak unimaginable havoc on the American people. But because the Russians don't lower themselves to such a poor, vile standard, it's just, I don't foresee that happening. Nevertheless, the Americans have crossed lines like this. They have attacked even the Kremlin with drones. That's a fact. It's a fact. They have helped and given the Ukrainians to do it, if not done it themselves. So we have precedents. We have the motive. We have, the culprit who stands to benefit. It's very clear it's the United States. I'm not saying that it's ironclad 100% the United States. What I'm saying is that it is most likely the United States. Understand the difference, okay? My analysis, looking at world politics, looking at international affairs, looking at, in addition to that, Putin's electoral victory, I'm telling you that it's most likely the United States. And once again, what happened in January, for example? We had a terrorist attack, the worst in history since the revolution in 1979. So Iran's worst terrorist attack in modern history. You had all of these people killed. And at the same time, at the exact same time, the Israelis were assassinating someone in Beirut. And then they were also killing other resistance leaders. So you have a trend here in recent times, in this year, of the Israelis and the Americans launching terrorist attacks and then blaming ISIS or using ISIS as a cover. And then immediately you have telltale signs. ISIS don't speak that way. ISIS don't dress that way. ISIS don't release communiques that way. So all of these things combined lead me to this conclusion. I'll give you another thing. The Americans released, I know some people have pointed to this as ironclad proof. I'm not saying it is, but I'm just showing you so you can take it into consideration when you look at things. This was on the 7th of March. So mind you, it's about 2-3 weeks before the concert hall attack. The US Embassy in Russia released a statement saying that people, namely Americans, of course, right, should avoid large gatherings over the next 48 hours. And that, they said that this includes concerts, okay? They specifically mentioned concerts, and that extremists have imminent plans to target large gatherings in Moscow. I mean, and what happened, 2 weeks later? Extremists attacked Russia in Moscow in a concert hall. So it's awfully specific. I can understand why someone would look at that and say, yeah, it's obvious. But at the same time, if you're planning such an attack, why would you advertise it by warning Americans as if the United States cares about its own citizens? So I understand the arguments against and for, But this is not what I take into account when I come to the conclusion that it's most likely the Americans. This is just an additional thing to keep in mind as it's been brought up numerous times. You know, I'll also show you a statement that was put out today, just a few hours ago. This is from the head of the Russian CIA. Yes, you know, I'll put it that way because people don't know it's called the FSB and still think it's called KGB. This is what he said. He said that the United States, Britain, and Ukraine are behind the City Hall attack. And he said that we believe this is true. In any case, we are now talking about the factual information we have. This is general information, but they have a long record of this sort. He said that Ukraine have been trying to prove their capability, that they're big enough, and that they can, you know, he said, what is it expected to do to demonstrate its capability? It's expected to carry out sabotage and terrorist attacks in the rear, right? In the rear means not on the front line where they're fighting, but in the capital city, at home. This is what both the chiefs of Ukraine's special services and the British special services are aiming at. The US special services have repeatedly mentioned this too. As I was saying, similarly, I mentioned the drone strikes. He says there have been drone strikes by uncrewed boats at sea. He means underwater unmanned vehicles. So basically like a drone in the sky, but underwater, right? Same principle. And incursions by groups of saboteurs and terrorist organizations into our territory. So obviously the underwater drone is what I referred to when I mentioned the Nord Stream sabotage attacks. And, you know, in addition to that, there's the Crimea bridge attack. So we have a lot of things here, a mountain of evidence piling up, which shows that this was not ISIS. It was the United States, maybe with Ukraine, maybe with the UK. I don't know. But very, very, very suspicious. I mean, the United States would have accused Russia of doing something, you know, like this with not even 1% of this evidence. So yeah, we have to go ahead and call this out for what it is. It looks like a U.S. hack, you know, it looks like a hack job. And this is from Kirby. So, you know, again, he was talking after the attack. This is after the attack. But he mentions the communique that I read to you just momentarily.
I've also seen, hopefully you saw the State Department, our embassy there, put out a notice to all Americans in Moscow to avoid any large gathering, concerts, obviously shopping malls, anything like that, just for their own safety. They should stay put where they are and stay.
Well, he looks like he's rather uncomfortable. And here's Corinne Jean-Pierre.
In early March, the United States, this government shared information with Russia about a planned terror attack in Moscow. We were very clear about that. On March 7th, we actually informed Americans in Russia did a public advisory, to be more specific. And, you know, ISIS bears the sole responsibility here. The sole responsibility, and Mr. Putin understands that. We shared that with their government, and so there is no evidence, absolutely no evidence that Ukraine was involved here.
How did you go about sharing that information? Was it through the State Department, U.S. Embassy?
I'm just not going to get into specifics. The U.S. government shared that with Russian authorities, and I'll just leave it there.
I have no evidence that the United States shared that with Russian authorities. The United States warned its own citizens in Moscow, which is entirely different. Nevertheless, again, these two were speaking after the attack. Okay, don't mistake or think it's before, but still, they don't seem to inspire much confidence, right? Here, by the way, just for comparison, you can see some photos of you know, ISIS operations where they you know, beforehand, they're holding up the flag, they're showing their faces on camera, they're holding up the right hand. Look at the hand, it's the right hand. You know, they're going to martyr themselves, right? This is the martyrdom sign with the right hand. unequivocally, without exception. It's not something that you accidentally do. I'm sorry, you're embarking on such an endeavor and you don't know which hand to hold up. No, this is ridiculous. Absolutely. I mean, so stupid that it doesn't even merit, one moment of consideration. Now, I don't know if Ukraine honestly had anything to do with this. I think they did to some extent, just because they're so frustrated about losing the war. Just for the fact that many Israelis are Ukrainians, and you can see how vindictive they are, on display in Gaza every single day. So, this would not be surprising to me. But without question, whoever did this, I know, by the way, the culprits are from Tajikistan, as if that makes any difference. I mean, we're not talking about the culprits. We're talking about who organized, orchestrated, supplied, and provided the intelligence and logistics to do this. This is what really matters. If we're talking about an organization and who bears responsibility, it's obviously their backers as well. 4 people by themselves cannot pull something off like this against Russia. This is, it's a sophisticated operation, and excuse me, and a very, very, critical and deadly one. So this has nothing to do with the, government in Tajikistan. And again, remember that it's a former Soviet state, so they used to be one country. And anyway, the United States, CIA, MI6, for me, without question, these are the primary backers and orchestrators of this attack on Russia. And I find this really, really disturbing for multiple reasons, because we have crossed a line that has never been crossed before. Even in the Cold War, even after the Cold War, you never had something like this in the capital city, pulled off, in London by the Russians, or vice versa, or in New York and Moscow, or vice versa. Never, ever. So Nord Stream, they crossed the line, and now the Biden administration, and don't, it's not even about the administration, because even if the Republicans and Trump take over, they will still behave the same way. They're lunatics. So they have crossed a dangerous line. And the second the Russians begin to react in any fashion or capacity, they will scream, "Oh my God, you're hurting us." They're just jealous, and they're mad because they're losing with BRICS, they're losing with Yemen, they're losing with Gaza. On the world stage, the Americans are a joke. They're a joke. Whatever age or era they think they had is gone down the toilet. Everyone can see what is going on. The whole world can see how the Americans are behaving in Gaza, how their American sanctions are crushing Syria and Iran and Venezuela and Cuba for 60 years. This is really a mountain of crimes that have piled up and are on full display. And now that there's an alternative system being proposed, they are desperately, trying to cling to that. And the more desperate they get, the more desperate and violent the actions become. And this is just a further indication that we're headed down that road. So again, thank you to all of you for your donations and for supporting me while the channel is demonetized. Again, I've decided to give a crab dance to every time we hit 100 people more on Rumble. Okay, so again, I think right now, where are we at? Because we're well over 220,000 on YouTube, and on Rumble, I think we are at. Give me a second. I'm switching over to. We're at 26,200. So guys, every time we hit 100 extra, it's a crab dance. And I hope you go and subscribe, because we need to have a backup. And I'm telling you this because they're actively trying to censor the videos and make trouble. So please do this so we can stay in touch. And that we also, I suppose, promote the growth of a different platform. And of course, if Rumble is banned in your country, like the French have decided to ban it, then please subscribe on Rockfin or Odyssey. Again, I'm live on all of them. All the videos are uploaded on both platforms. So don't worry. And the thing is also that when I'm talking about the following story, for example, where I want to show something that isn't necessarily graphic at all, but they then age restrict the video. It's becoming increasingly difficult to do that on YouTube, and it inhibits me from just simply doing my job. So the reason I'm asking you to go subscribe on Rumble is so you can actually watch what I want to talk about, and so I don't have to censor myself by not showing you certain things or doing certain segments. It's becoming annoying. So sorry, excuse me. So let's talk about this next thing. And again, I'm not going to be able to show you anything because of YouTube. Okay, you see that? So let's talk about these airdrops in Gaza, because they are now killing people. Yes, you heard that correctly. So the aid that is meant to be nourishing, nurturing, sustaining, and feeding Gazans is actually literally dropping on top of people and taking their lives. And today, 12 people died because of these aid drops, courtesy of the United States and co. So this is from, let me read to you, this is from Reuters, okay? 12 people have drowned trying to reach aid dropped by plane off a Gaza beach. Remember, that's just today. The other day, 6 people died because it fell on them. 12 people have drowned trying to reach aid dropped by plane off a Gaza beach. A video of the airdrop obtained by Reuters showed crowds of people running towards the beach in North Gaza as crates with parachutes floated down, then people standing deep in water and bodies being pulled onto the sand. It is the latest in a string of incidents involving deaths during aid deliveries in the tiny, crowded Palestinian enclave, where some people are foraging for weeds to eat and baking barely edible bread from animal feed. Once again, I've done videos on how people are eating animal food in Gaza, and I also did a video last week on how the Israelis block aid trucks from going into Gaza. You have to watch that one. You really have to go and find this video. It's on the channel, and send it to people, because your mind will explode when you see how disgusting it is, how they block the food trucks. It is unbelievable. So the video from today showed the apparently lifeless body of a bearded young man being hauled onto the beach, the eyes open but unmoving, and another man trying to revive him with chest compressions as somebody said, "It's over." He swam to get food for his children, and he was martyred, said a man standing on the beach who did not give his name. They should deliver aid through the overland crossings. Why are they doing this to us? That's what he exclaimed. And here's a video. This is a C-130 Hercules dropping food. And they've got all sorts of propaganda. I mean, look, okay, planes are really cool, but, do you really have to get the crews at ITV or Sky News to get on board the damn plane and film you dropping? This is state propaganda at this point. Let's be very clear. The press in England can accompany the RAF dropping food, or they can accompany the Israelis into Gaza, so they can film propaganda for both of them, but they can't actually go into Gaza by themselves and just film what is happening and film the truth. Interesting, right? Very interesting. You saw it in the video. It says 10 tons of food a day. Once again, one single truck can carry twice that amount into Gaza. So, you know, what is that? 10 tons of food a day sounds like a lot to somebody who has no clue how much, you know, a trailer or a proper truck can carry. Yeah, it sounds like a lot. Obviously, but it's not actually a lot of food. It's nothing. It's a joke. When you're talking about feeding 2 million people who are in a war zone, who are dying, you know, isolated from the world, and who have, it's not just a war, of course, there's a genocide. It's even worse. It's like, it's a systematic, you know, extermination of a certain people. So it's not just a question of they happen to be, you know, in the crossfire. No, they are the targets. So it's like the RAF, you know, the RAF take a break from giving bombs to the Israelis to dropping some food that will, you know, decapitate someone in Palestine. I mean, it's you know, it's ironic in a very sad way. And then the stuff falls into the ocean as well. So you have food that is falling into the ocean. The aid drops themselves fall into the water, and they wash up like this. Here you've got the UAE also sending, you know, boxes of food, while they're, of course, allowing the Israelis to drive lorries and trucks full of food to Netanyahu and establishing a land bridge and an economic corridor, a rival to the new Silk Road. They buy out, they think that they can buy out the Palestinians with a few boxes of food. These are the Palestinians of Gaza that we're talking about, the ones that are living under Israeli bombs. They think they can buy them with crates of worthless, you know, food that doesn't even reach them, that falls in the water, that is, you know, falling on top of their heads. Who do they think they're dealing with exactly here? Who do they think they are dealing with? Have they not understood that you know, Gazans are resilient? You can't beat them. No one can beat them. How? Not even with bombs. Could you beat them? And they think they can bribe them with this crap. I wish it would reach them. I wish it would reach them. It doesn't even reach them. Look at this, for example. You've got boxes of food stuck between two buildings. Well done. Here's another one. Look at this lovely, graceful, swift landing. Just like a bird. I mean, this is a serious security threat. I'm not joking. Forget the starvation. Forget the bombs. You can't have random boxes dropping on people's heads. Again, I feel like I'm a lunatic or something. I have to explain this or something. I don't know. Either I'm nuts or the world is nuts. One of us is crazy. I don't know who it is, but I shouldn't have to explain that dropping random boxes on people is a security threat. You can't tell me that it's impossible to coordinate a specific landing zone, an LZ, and notify the Palestinians. You know, even while you're committing genocide against them, you can't tell me that the Air Force are so incapable that they cannot drop crates of food on a specific part of the beach, but they can drop bombs on people. I mean, no. I'm sorry. Again, I'm getting very, very, you know, deep into this discussion. it's an absurd discussion to be had in the first place. There's no need to drop food by air whatsoever. They can just simply have the food go through. And again, you will understand that the food is able to reach the Palestinians with ease, because the Rafah crossing, which is right here, all the Egyptians have to do is drive straight on the same highway, the exact same highway, right? See the highway 40? All they have to do is drive straight, and then they reach Gaza, and that's it. Instead, what do? They go south, and they go to the Israeli crossings, and they let the Israelis waste time, waste weeks, and then people are starving to death in Gaza and being bombed. How nice. How nice. This is what happens when you have a person like Sisi in charge, when you have a traitor, a killer in charge, who is attacking people in Egypt, who forbids protests or makes it impossible to protest in Egypt, who doesn't allow the will of the Egyptian people to be fulfilled, which is to stop the genocide in Gaza, to break off ties with Israel, and to bomb them back out of Gaza. This is what Egyptians want. This is actually what Egyptians want. There's maybe a tiny percentage who don't want that, but they are irrelevant. They don't count. They're unheard of. What the majority want is what I just told you. The majority don't want this. So he betrays his own people. He betrays the Arabs, and then most of all the Palestinians. And who does he work for? He works for the West, for Israel. He does what they want. This is the problem. The Arab world is captured by these traitors. This is the problem. It's a handful of people. Meanwhile, in Gaza, they deal with this. I mean, how dare they show their faces, honestly? And they talk about peace. They talk about peace. At the UN, let me cover that with you. I just wanted to give my quick update on that. Because, there are some who think it's a done deal, okay, the ceasefire. It's not. It's absolutely not. So, all right, you see that? Then we're good. I have some videos lined up for you. Give me 1 second to fetch them. These are all from the UN, and we'll start with the vote itself.
24.
And again, thank you to all of you for the donations. Thank you for sustaining the channel, for supporting my work. Thank you to Kayvan, who joined on Patreon. I will play you a crab dance, and then we'll continue immediately with the coverage.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome.
Thank you.
والله في كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
China.
And you ain't black.
There's always the macro.
And then there's the micro.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You talking to me? Ladies and gentlemen,
I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large.
we got him.
because I have to do it myself. I know it's not.
I've fallen and I can't get up. Get up.
Oh! Disgusting!
She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
We'll do it live! Fuck it! Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Why attack Sanders? Why? Oh, you're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you!
Thank you again. We had someone else who just joined, Dana, and I appreciate that very much. And we also, give me just a moment. We also had some donations on Rockfin, and I'm much obliged. So let's talk about the vote at the UN, because I wanted to go through what this means for everyone and their reactions. So the UN Security Council voted on a ceasefire resolution. Now, this is not an actual ceasefire because the Americans immediately refused to even recognize the validity of it, and there was so much back and forth. You know, this has been happening for months, where the Americans, they want to put in the language that Hamas is bad, or Hamas should be condemned, and Hamas has to be destroyed, and you know, they want some kind of language like that, and they refuse to put in language that says there should be a ceasefire. And I want to explain to you how deranged this is, because in the past it was easy to get a resolution passed that said yes, there should be a ceasefire. What's so controversial about that? But now they don't even use this word in simple a parlay. They just don't mention the word ceasefire. They came up with something new called a humanitarian pause. That's specific to this conflict. Before, maybe some fringe uses of the term were out there, but you would never hear humanitarian pause said by a foreign minister or something. I mean, this is ridiculous. I'm telling you, this is my job. You don't hear that often. Now it's replaced the word ceasefire entirely, and it doesn't have the same meaning. It has no meaning whatsoever. So it's taken months for this to get passed. And what happened in the UN yesterday, I mean, it was a joke, because the Americans, they put forward a resolution, and they had the word ceasefire from it completely removed. And then the Russians and the Chinese, they vetoed it. And of course, as usual, the Americans say, oh my God, why did you veto the resolution? I thought you care about peace in Gaza. Yeah, well, it's because there's no mention of ceasefire in there. What they don't tell you also is that just before that, the Russians, not just in the last session, but for months, have been trying to do the same thing over and over and over again. Ceasefire. Let's get the word ceasefire in the resolution. And every time the Americans veto it, I've lost count of how many times they've vetoed this. And this is why I always tell you that the Israelis have 3 UN Security Council seats, right? They have the United States, UK, and France, who do their bidding for them. This is why you understand now why, of course, the Israeli lobby, the AIPAC lobby, is so fervent and adamant on maintaining control over US politicians, because they need basically a foot in the door at the UN in New York, and of course the other organs of the Secretariat and the UN itself, to make sure that no one can actually do anything that doesn't suit them, or otherwise. And of course, peace doesn't suit the Israelis. Let me show you the passing of the vote itself.
Draft resolution contained in document
the passing of the resolution, forgive me.
Resolution contained in document S/2024/254. Please raise their hand. Those against? Abstention. The result of the voting is as follows. 14 votes in favor, 0 vote against, 1 abstention. The draft resolution has been adopted as Resolution 2728, 2024.
No one usually claps in the UN Security Council, so you get an idea of you know the atmosphere and the feeling of partial relief in the room. I'll show you this excellent tweet here. He said that last time this happened was when de Villepin gave a historic speech against the Iraq War in 2003. Yes, absolutely. And let me say something. The United States, they abstained, okay? This is the first time they've actually done this. Usually it was always veto. And to have 14, in favor of this and the US finally just letting it through the door, yes, it is a remarkable breakthrough, but is it going to achieve anything? Sadly, no. Sadly, no. And I say this ironically wearing this. The problem is that UN Security Council resolutions are legally binding, but apparently Mr. Kirby thinks otherwise.
Don, what was the president's reaction to the decision by Netanyahu not to send an Israeli delegation this week?
I gotta tell you, Steve,
So he's asking him, why? What do you think of the decision by the Israelis not to send this delegation to the U.S.? That was Netanyahu's way of expressing his displeasure and dissatisfaction at the United States allowing the resolution to pass.
We're kind of perplexed by this. A couple of points that need to be stated and, in fact, restated. Number one, it's a non-binding resolution, so there's no impact at all.
That's a lie. This is a disgusting lie. It's not something up for debate. A UN Security Council resolution is a legally binding document. It's like, it's no different from the Parliament or the Senate passing a law. It's legally binding. Whether you like it or you don't like it, you have to apply it. Period. No discussion. Otherwise, leave the UN. What are you in the UN for? The Israelis, the only reason the Israelis are in the UN is because they want to claim legitimacy through statehood, and they wanted to use the partition plan, which of course they don't even apply because it means 2 states, not 1 state and no Palestine. You understand? It's a legally binding document. You have to implement it. You have to. No choice. And for the United States to say this not only as a UN member state, but as a founding member on the Security Council, I mean, this is shocking to me. I don't even know how he can utter such a thing. I don't care that he's just the spokesperson. He's the goddamn White House spokesperson. This is Biden's mouth. He's either, I'm sorry. This is one of those things where it doesn't even require explanation because of how absurd it is.
On Israel and Israel's ability to continue to go after Hamas. Number 2, as I said in my opening statement, it does not represent a change at all in our policy. It's very consistent with everything that we've been saying we want to get done here. And we get to decide what our policy is. The Prime Minister's office seems to be indicating through public statements that we somehow changed here.
Now, I agree with him on this point. Yes, there will be no change on the part of the United States. We know that. And it's funny watching this drama between Israel and the U.S. I mean, there's no drama. It's just an act. It's just, it's just how diplomacy, if you can call it that, works, right? The canceling of this trip that I'm referring to. But my point here is just that there is so little room for any flexibility or divergence that even the United States abstaining for a ceasefire resolution causes displeasure among the Israelis to the point that they have to, retaliate in some sort of slight diplomatic act. It's funny. It shows you how much control the Israelis have over the Americans, and how pathetic it is that the United States allows itself to be, offended by something like that. I mean, really, it's incredible, and even more incredible than that, as I mentioned, to spit on and, basically say the UN and the UN Security Council resolutions that are legally binding are discarded as irrelevant things is really tragic. I mean, it's because of this behavior that nothing is ever done. The UN does good things, but then they're sabotaged by the Israelis and by the Americans. Keep in mind, this is nothing. This resolution, it's not the first time the Israelis refuse to abide by one. I mean, 242 from the 1967 war, which told the Israelis you have to get out of the West Bank, Jerusalem, the Golan Heights in Syria. Have they abided by that? No. How many years have passed since 1967? Then, of course, you have the other resolutions when the Israelis annexed these exact territories. They didn't abide by that either, and it's just it stacks up. And keep in mind, those resolutions I just mentioned were accepted or abstained at by the United States. So even back then, the United States agreed with these things and allowed them to pass. And the Israelis continue to this day to spit on those resolutions. And then they complain, why are there so many resolutions against us? Well, because you keep breaking the law. That's why. This is just what I wanted to show you, and I wanted to show you also the reaction from various actors and around the world. So Hamas, let's look at Hamas and their reaction. I mean, at the same time as this resolution was being passed in New York, you had negotiations between Hamas and the Israelis. Hamas were very clear. They said, we want a ceasefire, but in addition to that, we want to have a hostage exchange. They said this on October 7th, since day one. Why would you capture hostages otherwise if you don't want to exchange them, right? I mean, obviously, that's the point and the objective. And it's been the same deal since day one. Ceasefire, hostage swap, allowing Gazans to return home, Gazans who've been displaced, 1.5 million Gazans who've been displaced. And then, of course, Israeli withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. So it's the same deal that's been on the table since day one. And the Israelis, what did they do? They refuse this deal by Hamas. How could you refuse the deal? You get back all the Israeli hostages. You leave Gaza. The war ends. No. So that shows you who wants peace and who doesn't. And keep in mind the prisoner swap. Look, it came to this point that there have to be hostage exchanges because the Israelis keep throwing people in jail and they keep using military courts to throw civilians in prison. Keep in mind, the people that Hamas are trying to free are not even in Gaza. They're from Jerusalem, the West Bank. So they're in areas they don't even administer, which shows you that this is really about Palestinians. It's not about getting Hamas, something special, or they just care about the national cause, nothing else. They care about human rights. They don't want children to be thrown in prison, for people to be thrown in prison without charge or trial. I mean, Jesus Christ, this is the most barbaric thing that you can do, and Israelis do it every day to people. You go to prison and it's classified. You don't even know why you're in prison. Have you ever heard of such a thing? I mean, even Assange knows what he's being charged with. The Israelis don't even tell you. No, it's classified. Hamas welcomed the UN Security Council resolution while saying they were ready to negotiate the release of captives in exchange for Palestinian detainees. Okay? We know what the Israelis did, of course, and I'll show you down here with the Saudis and the French and so on. And I want you to pay attention to these countries, Egypt and so on. Look, so they say that typically the Egyptians say that the resolution represents the first important and necessary step to stop the bloodshed. Okay, what are you doing to allow the trucks in, or are you going to keep the Israelis having them backed up and backlogged and starving Gazans? No mention. Saudi Arabia. The international community must stop the Israeli aggression. Okay, so all these countries, they talk about the bloodshed, the aggression, but they're participating in the slaughter, right? Saudi Arabia, Egypt, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, all of them. They're taking part in the slaughter, and they give out these empty garbage statements. But make no mistake, so do the European states like France. Sustained truce between Israel. What does that mean, a sustained truce? Dude, what about the Palestinians in prison, the hostages? What about freeing them? What about a Palestinian state, which you all promised, which you all agreed to and signed? No mention, right? So they'll go on and they'll get a resolution passed for permanent ceasefire, one day, and then they still won't do anything. So nothing is changing. Like this is just, it's like trying to move mountains to get a stupid piece of paper passed, and then even after that, no one bothers to apply it. So the problem here is that there's no enforcement mechanism. There is no incentive, good or bad, to make countries actually follow the Security Council resolutions, which they agreed to follow when they joined the United Nations as member states. There's nothing. This is what the Russian ambassador said. He said the word lasting, right, of a lasting ceasefire could be interpreted in various different ways. And that is very telling. Those who are providing cover for Israel still want to give it a free hand. Exactly. And this is how we come to a situation like this where, the Americans, they use ambiguous legal language, whether they're negotiating an extradition treaty or they're negotiating a Security Council resolution, and they do it on purpose because they just want to get it passed as an act so that afterwards they don't have to act on it, pun intended. And so, this is like with the UN resolution 242, that Security Council resolution said Israel has to withdraw from the recently occupied territories. What does occupied territories mean? Someone is in the bathroom, or are we talking about the West Bank? Yeah, obviously it's clear what it means to everybody else and everyone who is honest and straightforward. But the Americans and the Israelis then start playing games. Occupy. I don't know. Is it occupied if we annexed it? Because now it belongs to us. Like illegally. Let me show you another clip. This is Matt Lee with the State Department spokesperson.
Referred to the
okay, but the abstention means that you're okay with it. You're willing to go along with it, and so what do you expect now to happen as a result of the passage of this resolution?
So I think.
Do you expect that Israel is going to announce a ceasefire?
I do not.
And do you expect that Hamas is going to release hostages?
So I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the things that we have objected to for some time is that most of the people that call for a ceasefire, we believe, are calling for Israel to unilaterally stop operations and not calling for Hamas to agree to a ceasefire where they would release hostages.
Well, I think it goes both ways, doesn't it?
It could, but but the resolution today is a non-binding resolution.
Okay.
Again, what is this? How can these people lie like this? What do you mean it's non-binding? A non-binding resolution is when the General Assembly, every single UN member state together vote on something. That's non-binding. A Security Council resolution is fucking binding. That's the whole point of the goddamn organ. I can't believe these people. This is literally like saying 1 + 1 = 15. What the fuck are you saying?
Do you expect that Hamas is going to release hostages?
So I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the things that we have objected to for some time is that most of the people that call for a ceasefire, we believe, are calling for Israel to unilaterally stop operations and not calling for Hamas to agree to a ceasefire where they would release hostages.
Well, I think it goes both ways, doesn't it?
It could, but the resolution today is a non-binding resolution. But
Okay, so what's the point?
Well,
Why did you abstain? Why didn't you veto?
We didn't veto because we thought the language in it was consistent with something that the language as it relates to the ceasefire and release of hostage was consistent with.
I don't think that was good of Matt Lee to just go along with, you know. No, you're supposed to interrupt him and say it's binding. I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on here. Maybe he just wanted to kind of let him fall down his own rabbit hole.
With something that the language as it relates to the ceasefire and release of hostage was consistent with the longstanding United States position.
So you don't believe anything is going to happen as a result of the passage of this resolution?
So I think that separate and apart from this resolution, we have active, ongoing negotiations to try to achieve what this resolution calls for, which is the an immediate ceasefire and the release of hostages. I don't know. I can't say that this resolution is going to have any impact on those negotiations. But those negotiations are ongoing. They've been ongoing over the weekend, and they've made progress.
So I don't expect you to answer this now, but to me, you just stick this in your pocket. If that's the case, what the hell is the point of the UN, of the UN Security Council?
So we think it plays an important role.
It does, even though its action does absolutely nothing. And that you're going to get what you would like to see, not out of the UN, but out of discussions in Doha.
So we believe it's important that the UN speak and the UN Security Council speak on matters of international security. It's why we've been engaged in this process. It's why we thought we were going to have a successful vote on Friday that Russia and China unfortunately and quite cynically vetoed. But I do believe that ultimately if we're...
They vetoed it because it didn't say anything about a ceasefire. It's not like they vetoed it and it had ceasefire in there, but they vetoed it for some other reason, which shows they don't really care about a ceasefire. No. They literally vetoed it because of the same reason. They are consistent. They want a ceasefire. Russia and China want a ceasefire. If you remove the word ceasefire, veto. What is cynical about that? What is he talking about?
We're able to achieve a ceasefire and the release of hostages is going to come not through a UN process, but through the process with which we've been engaged, yes, in Doha.
Again, I'm sorry, I don't know what to say. This is it's so wild listening to these people. I mean, I know that the spokespersons lie. Anyway, I'm used to that. It's my job to sit here, tell you how they're lying. Of course, I'm used to it, but this is really bad. I thought it was going to go like, yes, we know they're binding, but we want to see some action first by Hamas, But no, now it's like they have gone balls to the wall, Just denying reality. It's not a thing. Next, they will say that the United States doesn't give weapons to Israel. Israel manufactures them. Is no role. Next, they will say Israel is not at war with Hamas. There's no war. Next, they will say Hamas are allies of Israel. I mean, why don't you might as well say this? You're already this crazy, so just go ahead and say it. Why not? Maybe you could humor me a bit, literally. Humor me. Jesus. I mean, it's like, they're so crazy that they make you question your own sanity. Like you know that you're talking the truth, but they make you doubt yourself. I mean, this is really something else. So, the highlight of this passage is not that, as usual, Israel will just spit on the United Nations while using the United Nations to pretend it's a country. No. The highlight here is that the Americans are saying these are two spokespersons, White House and the State Department, two different spokespersons of the top of the executive, telling you that the United Nations Security Council, which has been one of the primary 6 organs of the United Nations since its founding in 1945, it issues non-binding resolutions. It's a rag. You can put it in your pocket, as he said. This is the highlight. Oh, and by the way, people are dying in Gaza, of course. So, while they're joking around, and pretending that, you know, the law doesn't apply. Yeah, just let's keep killing people, you know. There you go. Madness, madness, madness. Madness. These people are mad. You know, I want to show you something because I saw a tweet about Victoria Nuland from Antony Blinken. Okay. And I want to show you something because well, I'll explain it in a second. Okay, I'll explain it in just a second. I'm pulling it up. And I was also looking something up about Albright as well, and it's sort of weird. But in any case, I'll tell you why it's weird and why I was looking at Madeleine Albright. Thank you to Fatim for the donation. It says merci pour tous vos efforts to enlighten us. Bien sûr, I mean, premièrement, ça fait plaisir qu'il y a des gens en France qui écoutent. Et j'ai rencontré beaucoup de Français aussi à Londres quand j'ai fait quand j'étais là-bas pour Assange. Donc I should probably do more things for Assange in French. Actually, I haven't done it anywhere near enough. So thank you very much, Faten, and thank you to Kayvan who joined on Patreon. And again, I'll just remind you guys that if you could please support my work by donating, I don't know, £2 a month on Patreon or $2 a month, it would really go a long way because they demonetize the YouTube channel, which means that I can't earn any money from my work on YouTube, which was how, you know, where my main income or revenue, or basically how I make a living, is primarily from YouTube. So they took that away, and they also recommend the videos less, so less people see the truth or see what the other side of what's happening. You know, and they frequently do that with channels, independent media that are not subscribing to, you know, the school of thought, if you can call it that, of propaganda that is sold and implemented by the mainstream media. So, you know, it's basically a way of punishing independent media. And if you can please donate on Patreon or PayPal, I'd be most grateful and much obliged. I'll put the links below. Give me a second, I'll copy and paste them, and then we'll continue, and I'll tell you about a special case that you don't know about. Someone who the US have worked to put in prison that you don't know about, that I guarantee not many of you know about. I guarantee you. And it's really shocking. It's really, truly, absolutely shocking. And they do this every couple of years on schedule. So just a second, I'm trying to speak while copying these things. Give me a second. And of course, if you can, and I really ask this as a favor to those of you who are on YouTube, please go and subscribe on Rumble. Every time we hit 100 subscribers on Rumble, I will play a crab dance. So there's your incentive. And of course, we get to have a backup to the YouTube channel. So please make sure you do. It's very, very, very important. It's rumble.com/Richard Medhurst, and I'll have the link below for you, of course. I'm gonna pin it in the chat so you guys can click on it afterwards at any moment in the top. Okay. Are you guys boycotting Israeli products? If you are, you should tell me in the chat and tell each other actually what boycotts you're implementing, which products, because you know, the brands differ from country to country. I mean, you're gonna have some basically markets that haven't been taken over by certain corporations, and they're trying to rebrand certain products. For example, Israeli dates I saw being rebranded as South African dates by a company that is known to grow to basically grow them on occupied stolen territory. So okay, so let's go. I want to tell you about this political prisoner. Wow, what a photograph. What a photograph. Wow. Okay, let's begin. So, as I said, I've covered the Assange case since it began, the extradition case, and we all know that Assange is a political prisoner. I wanted to bring your attention to someone else who is also a political prisoner. He's actually the longest the longest political prisoner in Europe. And he's been in prison and is still in prison for most of his life, if you can gauge how obscene and egregious that is. So I'm talking about someone who is called George Abdullah. He is a resistance fighter imprisoned in France. And before I go any further, he is a further example how people who resist Israel and America, it's nothing to do with being Muslim, because they want to frame armed resistance as being something with Muslim extremism. This is Islamophobia. He is a Christian. He is a Christian and he is a resistance fighter, and he fully supports armed struggle. And, you know, there are many others like him before, George Habash, who are Christian and resistance fighters against Israel. So there's no religious aspect here, you know, just to be clear and just to you know, get that out there. So he was basically arrested in 1984, okay, for something, a separate case, and then afterwards they put him in prison. When they found out his identity, they found out that he was basically, you know, they picked him up for his forged passport, and then once they understood who he really is, they threw him in prison, and they accused him of killing an Israeli diplomat and an American diplomat. Now, he doesn't necessarily deny the crimes, and I'm not gonna get into the details of did he kill them, was it wrong to kill them? Forget all that. He served the time in prison, and they still won't let him out. This is the point I want to argue and talk about with you. The guy served his sentence. Why is he still in prison? How is this possible? How can you serve your sentence and then still be in prison? Explain that to me. Explain that to me. There are no new charges. There is no fresh evidence. There are no additional crimes, but they refuse to release him. Well, I'm sorry. If he wasn't already a political prisoner, he certainly is now. And he is, you have to keep in mind, he's 72 now. 72. He's born in 51 and then given life in prison in 87. So that means he spent most of his life in prison. Do you think that this is normal? I don't think that that's normal. I think that this is, you know, obvious, clear, blatant political persecution. And he did this during Israel's occupation of Lebanon. And of course, the American involvement, as usual, in everything Israel does. So it's a legitimate act of resistance. It's a legitimate act of resistance. But I want to show you how the Americans, every time there's a possibility of release, they come in and they make sure that he stays in prison, which is, it just shows you again how the entire European continent, all the judiciaries, all the legal systems of the EU and otherwise are controlled by the Americans. I've seen that myself in the London courts with the Assange case, and I'm telling you that, you know, and I've studied the documents with Italy and Spain and Germany, and I'm telling you that this is another example of that. And lo and behold, guess who? Again, I want you to tell me in the comments, who do you think, which American official in when was this, 2013? Yeah. Which American official in 2013 went to France, or excuse me, basically told the French authorities to keep this guy in prison, and then, you know, this is 3 days before he's set to be released and go back to Lebanon. He's been granted parole. He wants to go back home, and it goes down the toilet in the gutter. Who do you think? I'm just reading your comments. I'm waiting for your comments. This is 2013, all right? He was granted parole. He was granted parole. and he was set to be released. I mean, it's really evil, right? Because they gave him parole on the 10th of January. He was supposed to be released in 4 days. I mean, think of the sabotage to stop him being released within 4 days. I'm going to read your comments. Some of you are saying Clinton or John McCain. I'm seeing also Biden. And I'm seeing Blinken and Newland. It was Victoria Newland. This bitch. I mean, talk about evil, really. She is such a vindictive, conniving, evil. I'm trying not to swear, man. I'm trying to cut down on the swearing. She is such a conniving, evil person. And by the way, Victoria Newland is the one that said, oh, the case in Sweden against Assange has nothing to do with us. There will be no persecution of Assange. We are not interested in persecuting him. This lying, conniving, goddamn witch. Truly a witch. Look at this. On January 10th, Abdullah was granted parole on appeal by the Chamber of Sentences application of Paris on the condition of an order of deportation from France. So basically, you get parole and you're free, but you have to be deported instantly to Lebanon. Great. The guy wants to go home. What's wrong with that? It's perfect. So that's 10th of January. Abdullah's lawyer said that his client hopes to return to Lebanon and take up a teaching job. Victoria Newland, spokeswoman of the US State Department, declared to the press the US government's objection to his release on 11th of January. The United States ambassador to France, Rifkin, said, I'm disappointed by the decision today. Life imprisonment was the appropriate sentence for Mr. Abdullah's crimes, and there's legitimate concern that Mr. Abdullah would continue to represent a danger to the international community if he were to go free. And then Manuel Valls, the Minister of Interior, refused to sign the administrative paper for deporting Abdullah. After that, it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court sided with him not signing the order and keeping Abdullah in prison. I mean, this is really disgusting, honestly. And we have to remember that there's a small bit of blame that, although again, I mean, what power could they have? But we have to say that, you know, it's wrong of the Lebanese government to not demand that he come to Lebanon at least, because, you know, if he is a prisoner in his own country. And again, under EU law, you cannot isolate someone like they used to do, where you're thrown on a ship and taken to a colony on the other side of the planet in the Pacific, and you're isolated from your family and your friends and so on. So the fact that he is not only a political prisoner, he has not only completed his sentence and been given parole, but that, you know, he is away from his family and friends and countrymen and compatriots. I mean, this is also, you know, it's unfair. And as far as I can tell, there's been no effort to bring him over to Lebanon or to request him. And again, you know, if he can't even get an honest, approved decision applied, what power would the Lebanese government have then? You know, I mean, the guy was given his freedom, and they still took it away. It's unbelievable. It's truly unbelievable. Every 2 years, Abdullah has the right to ask for a new release date, which has been refused more than 5 times. Incredible, right? It's truly incredible. And if I recall correctly, and just give me a second to look this up, but I believe that the Americans, how many times did they interfere in total? Well, I'm not, yeah, so this is what I wanted to show you. This is look at this. So in Europe, the period of unconditional imprisonment attached to his conviction was not indicated during his trial. As a result, it was automatically set to 15 years. He has therefore been eligible for a release since 1999. That is, he has been able to apply for parole since that date. To date, he has been denied freedom 10 times. 10 times. And so, just before all the brass at the State Department, in the previous administrations, you of course had people in the Bush administration blocking his release, Colin Powell and so on. I mean, it's really, really disgusting. It's truly disgusting how involved they are in trying to keep this man in prison. And this is the price that is paid. And he is 72 years old now. 72. He could have been free since 1999. I'm sorry, but when you're given a sentence, life with parole, and you're granted parole, how can you take that away from someone? This is insane. And then you call yourself a civilized country. What is this? I mean, this is an embarrassment to the French. It's an embarrassment to the Americans. It's truly disgusting. And I want to say something. The fact that the Americans interfere so much and they're so involved with keeping this man in prison, it indicates to me that it's not just the Americans, it's also the Israelis behind it, because they can also get the Americans to strong arm the French more than the Israelis can do themselves, right? So remember, he did allegedly attack a U.S. diplomat as well, fine, but the level of ill intent and malevolence and contempt that they harbor towards Abdullah is a bit too extreme for me to just discard any Israeli involvement. So, by the way, the reason I was looking at Madeleine Albright, did you know, for example, that Victoria Nuland is originally, her parents are Jewish immigrants from the Russian Empire, just like all Israeli prime ministers, by the way, right? So they come from an area. This is in Ukraine. This is the area that her parents come from. It's in modern day Ukraine. I didn't know that. Given her name, because Nuland didn't strike me as being Jewish or Eastern European at all. And then Madeleine Albright, it turns out her parents also Jews from Eastern Europe, from the Czech Republic, and she changed her name. Her original name is not Albright, because Albright is a particularly English name or American name, and it absolutely has nothing to do with her original name. I was looking these two up because of their just out of curiosity, and it is something about the cruelty of their behavior, the cruelty of that the callous statement where she's being told she starved 500,000 Iraqi children to death, and she doesn't even contest it. She just says, yeah, it's an acceptable price. There's something about that vicious, ghoulish behavior that reminded me of the Israelis, right? It's so similar. And so I was just curious. And turns out she is Eastern European, and so is Victoria Nuland. And they all have this viciousness about them, don't they? And then they become, number one or number two in the State Department, and they go all around the world and start killing Arabs and killing people. And, it's something weird about them. Then again, Hillary Clinton, it's not too different, is she? But I didn't look into her parents' background at all. She's, This is a photo of George Abdullah, and he's sitting with Maître Vergès right in front of him. And Vergès is actually the most famous French lawyer, who ever existed. And he's known for taking on very controversial cases. He, for example, defended a Nazi, Barbie Klaus, in court. And you know how he did it? Because he's half Vietnamese. So he fucking hates the French Empire, and he was completely anti-imperialist. And the way that he defended the Nazi in court, and he got him off in the end, he said, look, what the French government is doing in Algeria is very much what you're accusing my client of. So if he's a criminal, that makes you a criminal as well, and that makes this entire court illegitimate. So he did stuff like this, which is, I mean, excellent. And he was a resistance fighter in World War II against the Nazis themselves. So he obviously, he's no fan of Nazis, very clearly and obviously. I think he took on that case to point out the French government's crimes in Algeria more than anything. So, really a top lawyer. And he obviously took on George Abdullah's case because of its significance and because of it was the correct thing to do. So, yeah, I think I would have loved to interview him, but he passed away, unfortunately. In any case, I wanted to tell you about George Abdullah because I've done so before in the past, but he's the longest serving political prisoner in Europe. And, the fact that he's been given parole, but they refuse to release him. What kind of justice system is that? It's a cruel justice system. France has not changed from the days where, they would put you on a ship and then send you to the Pacific to chop trees because you stole a piece of bread. It's just as barbaric and just as vicious. And they like to pretend like they're better than other countries and like they are the civilized ones and les Lumières. Complete bullshit. So, until he is free, no one is free, right? And you can say the same thing about Julian Assange and Palestine, because they are all cases of people being abused, killed, murdered, vilified because of their simple desire to seek self-determination, nothing more. This guy's country was occupied by Israel, and he wanted to free his country. And of course, the Americans were taking part in that occupation. So, he just fought for his country the same way that if you saw two German diplomats during World War II, I'd also fucking gun them down. Yeah, absolutely. And these people are resistance fighters, but they want to make them out to be terrorists. I'm sorry, man. Terrorism is starving 2 million people, in a concentration camp. Terrorism is invading Lebanon every couple of years. They're the terrorists, but they want the resistance fighters to look like to make them out to be some kind of anomaly or weird or criminal individuals, and that's just further confirmation of the criminality that the Israelis have about them, and the Americans, and their illegitimacy. These are some clips I wanted to show you from the front lines, which have just surfaced. Before I continue, I want to say thank you to those of you who have come out to support my journalism. Thank you to Haluk. I hope I said your name right. And thank you also to... one second, it's loading. I apologize. This is from Gritty, thank you very much. And also Faisal, who joined on Patreon. I'm most grateful to all of you. Again, if there's one thing you do for me, please subscribe on Rumble. Every time we hit 100 more subscribers, I'll play the crab dance. It's very important because I want to make sure that we have a contingency plan. And again, the URL is rumble.com/Richard Medhurst. I'm pasting it in the chat on YouTube, and I want to read some more donations that were sent to me by people on Rumble. This is from Gold Alchemist, says long live Palestine. Thank you again for the clips, because I'm actually you just heard me say I'm going to talk about these, so thank you very much. And I appreciate you sending them in with the donations too. It's very kind of you. Monique says, hi Richie, would you know of a way to donate to Palestine? What organization should I choose? I don't trust the internet search results lately. Truly grateful for your work. geiler Dude. Thank you. Du bist auch richtig geil. I actually don't know a specific one, but I do know someone who does. Okay, so please allow me to get back to you on that, because this is something they frustrated, where people have the willingness and the means to donate maybe something to Palestine or Syria or Yemen, and they just, because of the sanctions, they make sure nothing gets through. And they because I think everyone would want to be helping out the Palestinians financially, but no, you can't do that. But if you want to buy weapons for Ukrainians, go ahead, yeah. So thank you for reminding me, and I'll ask him on, because I've been meaning to the whole time. He is Palestinian, he has family in Gaza, and I'll get back to you on that. Sable Miner says, Viva Palestine and Yemen and Africa and all. Amen. And sorry, one of you said in the comments also, I donate to UNRWA. UNRWA is one of the only ones that you can actually donate to. That's correct. I would donate to UNRWA as well. I'm just going to think of something else also to get back to you on. And I have the same feeling as you. I don't trust the search results. I thought maybe some of them might be Israelis just trying to trick people into siphoning funds away from the Palestinians to do the complete opposite. Others might be scammers. So that's why I've always been a bit reluctant to post anything, because I want to make sure it's ironclad. But I would donate to UNRWA just for the simple fact that they're attacking UNRWA so badly. That's the one I would donate to, because they want to make sure that even the slightest amount of aid, which is literally just children's books, food, water testing kits, even that, which is what UNRWA is bringing in, they want to ban it. So whatever efforts that the Israelis engage in to try and starve Palestinians, deprive Palestinians of life, of liberty, of resources, we have to frustrate. We have to frustrate absolutely and completely and immediately. Another one that comes to mind is the hold on, give me a second. Yeah, I would donate to also the Palestine Red Crescent. That's another one I would donate to. Off the top of my head, the ones in Gaza. A lot of the footage from the wounded is actually stuff that they had posted, that they had gathered. So they were not only sending the first aid responders, but also raising awareness, basically, doing journalism at the same time, and showing all of these horrific things in Gaza. So definitely help them out as well. I mean, the medics that work in the Red Crescent in Gaza are, they're heroes. I want to show you some of the footage that's just come out, that was just released by the Resistance, and there are a couple of clips here. And again, this is really it's combat journalism of the I mean, not just the most relevant and prominent kind, but quality-wise, it's quite astounding, because rarely throughout history have we ever been offered such a unfiltered, objective, clear-cut view of simple combat, of what is happening on the field. Now, the Israelis release clips, and I'll show you one in a moment, that are just, it's like a bunch of people in a shooting range that are just firing into thin air. There's nothing there. But this, what the Qassam brigades are releasing, is of a different caliber. It's of a different kind. It's really in a league of its own. Take a look.
سيتم الآن دك حشودات العدو المتحشدة حول مستشفى الشفاء.
So these are mortars being fired, and ironically, the Israelis or the Americans rather, who are supplying the Israelis, have run out of mortars. They ran out of shells to supply Ukraine, and that's why Russia defeated Ukraine. And of course, I did lots of videos about this, but just so you understand how crucial these things are. This is another piece of footage. You can see here, this is a clash with a bulldozer. Listen, look at this. Yeah, that's a D9 bulldozer. The Israelis use this all the time to bulldoze, demolish people's homes, destroy public infrastructure like roads, and of course tow back their damaged or destroyed tanks in Gaza. So you might find it sometimes a bit exaggerated with the effects, but absolutely not. I much rather prefer this to what the Israelis put out, where you literally cannot see a thing being hit. It's just, I mean, it's something someone could have filmed, I don't know, in Arizona on their property with a few friends, and you could not, you know, tell the difference. I'll show you one in a second. They've released another garbage. Every single one, you can't see a thing. Look at this, for example. This is near Al Shifa Hospital. This was with an improvised explosive device, IED. Notice also how these are military targets, and that's crazy that they hit it with two, actually, right? So might have taken out the tracks. Then you've got the driver has smoke and shit and dust in his eyes. I mean, it's you know, this is guerrilla warfare. It's not terrorism. It's guerrilla warfare. It's an excellent example, a textbook academic example of what a guerrilla army is, how it operates, and it's got nothing to do with being urban. I mean, the Vietnamese also had guerrilla warfare against the Americans in the jungle. So I mean, it's nothing to do with whether it's urban or not. It's just that it's a bunch of people that have put together from just as a group, as a nation. In this case, they're trapped inside Gaza, who have put together a bunch of soldiers, and they're fighting a foreign occupation, an illegal army that is morally illegal, reprehensible, legally under international law, null and void. So, you know, even with or without the legality and moral stance in their favor, just from a military point of view and an academic point of view, this is a guerrilla warfare outfit. What Hamas, what Qassam brigades are doing is going to be studied by military colleges for decades to come, without a shadow of a doubt. I promise you this. Here's another example.
Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. Bismillah, Allahu Akbar.
Yeah, that guy, you know, I swear to God, the journalists in Gaza, the ones that, I mean, that are running around with the Hamas outfit, have got balls of steel. I mean, these guys, remember, this footage is not being filmed by someone who is a fighter themselves or has something to defend themselves with. They're literally running around in sneakers filming this stuff. I mean, you have to just appreciate the integrity and resilience that it takes to do that. This is really something else. No armor, no protective gear, doesn't even have a press vest. He's literally running around just filming it. And now the Israelis will say, oh, well, it's propaganda. Yeah, sure, but it's also combat journalism because I can see what's going on. It's not edited. Well, I mean, there are special effects, but it's not edited in a dishonest way. On the contrary, it's edited to point out details that some viewers may or may not see, right? To make something obviously and unequivocally clear that this is an Israeli tank. Let's zoom in. Here's the Israeli tank. Zoom out. Let the footage continue. Look at it being hit. Zoom in. Look at it being hit. I mean, you couldn't ask for more clear combat journalism. This is how it should be done. There's no narration. There's no tricks in the video, and there's no time wasting either. It's straight to the point.
الله مسؤول وبك نجول وبك نقاتل ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله لا إله إلا الله.
طلع طيارة.
So that what they're using is another piece of Palestinian innovation. It's the Rule sniper. It's a 50 caliber sniper. That thing will, take your arm off without even touching you if it passes, close enough. And the military and technical innovation of the Palestinians to be able to conceive of and construct such a weapon under siege is remarkable. It is remarkable. Once again, from an academic, from a military, and an economic point of view, even, right? So that is something very, very important. Another thing I'm reminded of is when the Israelis were caught. Because remember, they were occupying Gaza till 2005, and then they occupied it the next year with a siege that's lasted to this day. And the Palestinians discovered that the Israelis were stealing water from Gaza with these pipes underground. And you know what they did? They just dismantled the pipes. They refashioned them, or rather just fashioned them into missiles, and then fired them back at the Israelis, which is another Palestinian innovation that no one else could have possibly thought to compare to. And it's funny because you see some people say, "Oh, look at the Palestinians," as if like it's some video showing some bad thing. No, the Palestinians filmed this themselves with a weapon the Israelis were using, which is theft of resources. Pipes stealing resources from Palestinians. But anyway, it's nothing new. Here's some more footage. This is what the Israelis. So it's very underwhelming now. Look at what the Israelis published.
זינו, תקפיאו לשמאל. תקפיאו לשמאל. בר, אני ואתה מדלגים. ימין. ימין? נכנס? נכנסים. גבול, גבול!
What is that? I see something sticking out. What could be a rifle. It could also be one of his friends or on the other side. I mean, what? That's not a person. I don't know what that is. This doesn't prove anything. The Israelis could have easily, cooked this up. And once again, it doesn't even show anything. Look at the difference where here you can literally see on the rooftop both of the Israelis. There's one. Okay, you can literally see them, and there's the other one. You can see the plume from the smoke. So there's a big difference. Number one, in just how they show the intended or allegedly intended targets, I should say, in the case of the Israelis. Let's continue, okay?
Come on!
Once again, I see someone, or actually not someone, this is the first time we've seen someone in this clip. I see a gun being stuck out and then going back in, and his friend is firing to the side. The plumes of smoke look really weird also, because I don't see any actual damage to the wall. They could easily be blanks that the Israelis are firing so they don't injure each other. And then the smoke, is added later over there to make it look like it impacted. I don't know. I'm just thinking of the Israeli drone video from the other day where they released this to show that there was no flower massacre. And then, someone zoomed in someone who's familiar with drone footage zoomed in and basically, posted the footage. And I showed you how the bullet casings were shown from a drone. You can't see bullet casings flying out of a weapon from that high up. And the bullet casings look bigger than the guy's head. I mean, this is ridiculous. So we know the Israelis, we know that they doctor and they fake footage. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do this here as well. Okay, so just people shooting, that's all we hear. Okay, now that impact looks real. It does look like they're actually firing here, but again, it doesn't show anyone. So that's the video. That's it. So you see the difference. And to me, why am I telling you this? It's because this indicates that the Israelis have nothing to show for their efforts on the battlefield, and they're losing, and they need to put out some propaganda from time to time, but they don't actually have anything of value to actually display. And these are the desperate attempts of a failing army. Because keep in mind, there are two wars. I mean, you got a war against civilians, which they are succeeding in, and there's also a real war on the battlefield with Hamas and with the Qassam fighters, and that they are absolutely, without question, losing. You can't even name one objective that they have achieved. Release the hostages hasn't worked. Defeat Hamas hasn't worked. You haven't even come close. I mean, it's so pathetic. And the Israelis they've lost more soldiers now than in any event or war or skirmish since 1973. So it's really a pathetic, poor performance. I'm so poor. Anyway, that about wraps it up for this segment. I just wanted to quickly show you some of the things put out by the resistance and the Israelis. Thank you to Miss Abdi who joined on Patreon. I owe them a crab dance, so please give them a round of applause.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line. claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome.
Thank you.
والله في كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
China.
And you ain't black.
There's always the macro.
And then there's the micro.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You talking to me? Ladies and gentlemen,
I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large.
we got him.
Because I have to do it myself. I know it's not.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Disgusting!
She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Why attack Sanders? Why? Oh, you're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.
Forgive me, I was just getting something to drink, and the crab dance is obviously not long enough. So we must make sure to prolong it, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. Pep Mars, show yourself, Frenchman. Again, I'm very grateful to all of you who've tuned in for the Assange coverage and who've shown interest in my coverage for that case. And, you know, you have to make sure, of course, to inform others about this. And I made a video encapsulating his case from start to the present. And I fear it will be long since we see its finish and its end. And I'm going to paste that once again for you in the comment section so that, and the chat, so that you can simply go and watch it or share it with people. Because I made it for that reason. I made it so you can just like share this to some, with someone, and they in 15 minutes they will know the whole case. It is a useful video. And even if you know the case, I guarantee you watch it, you'll learn something. And nevertheless, that's the intended purpose. So make sure you inform people. And thank you to all of you who have sent in donations. Again, if you can afford to send them maybe $2 a month on Patreon, or just a one-time donation on PayPal, I would really be appreciative and much obliged, because they're basically punishing me because I tell the truth about Israel. That's what it comes down to. They don't want independent media to thrive, so they do things like this. And I'm trying to make up for, because I used to earn a living mainly through YouTube, and now that's gone. So I have to basically ask you guys to please make up for it if you can through Patreon or through Rumble or PayPal. Any of those works. And if you're on YouTube, again, I'm waiting for us to go up by 100 followers, and then I'll play a new crab dance. And I think we're very close. We're very close to hitting. We need just a few more. I'm in the stats, and it says we need about, I think, 15 or 60 more people, and then we will hit today's goal on Rumble. So go ahead and please subscribe if you haven't. It's just another website where I put videos, and I put this exact same videos and live stream like on YouTube. It's a copy of YouTube, but better in many ways because there's no censorship, right? So that's the whole point. And I'll put the link in the bottom. And if Rumble is banned in your country, because, for example, they had to ban it in France because, well, they didn't have to ban it, but the French didn't want the ability not to ban content, to have a website where, you know, you're allowed to just say what you want is unacceptable in France. So they told them, you either accept our rules or we'll ban you, and they banned them. So that indicates to me that they're you know, that Rumble are actually committed to what they say. And if that's not an option, then there's also Rockfin and Odyssey. All of them work, same thing. Thank you very much, Caroline. Says, I'll help. That's why I help by giving £2 a month. Thank you very much. And thank you, Pepmar, and all of you for going over to Rumble, as you said in the comments. Thank you, Byron Raum, for the donation on Rumble. And I think we had one earlier as well from someone who's asking about, give me a second, about Doctors Without Borders. I think it was. It's disappeared now. But I think they should be okay. Yes, I think they should be okay. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, because, I mean, the reason I told you UNRWA and Palestine, the Palestinian Red Crescent, is because I know that they're specific to Palestine and Gaza. With Doctors Without Borders, I mean, it's a worldwide thing. So you might be donating something and then it's helping them in another place, which is nothing necessarily wrong with that. On the contrary, maybe that's what you want. But if because you guys are asking me about Gaza specifically, yeah, that was why I mentioned the UNRWA and Palestinian Red Crescent Society. So, because they're really the ones in Gaza specifically. I mean, UNRWA does things, of course, outside of Gaza, but it's still confined to Palestine. And they did this, I mean, they did this in purpose on a way. I mean, when I say they, I mean the Israelis in this case. They didn't want Palestinians being classified as regular refugees. So they wanted, or at least the early iterations of the Zionist governments, were happy with UNRWA existing because it meant that Palestinians wouldn't get the status of refugee and that basically they could marginalize them administratively in that way. And of course, that's not what happened, because we all know that Palestinians, it was established a long time ago, Palestinians have the right to return. This is, you know, this is inviolable. Every refugee has that. And you know, having UNRWA doesn't negate that in any way. So, you know, it's a bit like Hamas, if you will. Hamas is not created by the Israelis in any way, but the Israelis thought that it would be good to have Hamas because then you could divide and fracture Palestinian politics, because now you have a different group, right? And obviously that didn't work out for them either. So, you know. Dita says, I subscribe to the Patreon. Is that okay? It's more than okay. And thank you very much for supporting my work. I'm very grateful. So that's about it for today, guys. Thank you very much, because I have other shows that I have to go, that I was invited on to talk about Assange. So we'll leave it at that today. Again, thank you all for tuning in, for subscribing. If you're new here, remember to subscribe. And if you're subscribed already, go and subscribe on Rumble. I need you guys to go and subscribe there. And then we can have more crab dances. And thank you very much to Albert Alligator. Says, great coverage, Richard. Thanks. Thank you as well. And I think we got another one here on PayPal. Give me a second. Tora. Thank you very much, Tora. All right, guys. That's it for me. Take care. Bye-bye.
A is for
all men and women created by you know the thing.
B is for
I'm beginning to see why your wife left you.
C is for
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
D is for
Don't worry, I'm so serious. Children, I love to hear them.
E is for
Excuse to walk by the dealer and say, no, I'm not going to be a mule. I got something to do. I got to go do boom, boom, boom.
F is for
Friend, and she's a friend. She's been my friend in and out of public life.
G is for
Go to Joe 30330.
H is for
Hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down.
I is for
I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate.
J is for
Just look at the record.
I have President Biden, Vice President Biden.
Well, I tell you what, if you look at my record and you still doubt about my commitment, then you should vote for somebody else.
K is for
Kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
L is for
The lion, dog, face, pony soldier.
M is for
Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night, the phone. Make sure the kids hear work.
N is for
NATO.
O is for
The only African-American woman that's ever been elected to the United States Senate.
P is for
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
R is for
Rest her soul, and although she's your mom's still alive.
S is for
Send a text to the word united.
T is for
Truth over facts.
U is for
Union workers, the UAW took incredible cuts in their future.
V is for
I'll vote for somebody else.
All right, thanks so much.
W is for
Why? Oh, you're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay.
X is for
Xi Jinping.
Y is for
And you ain't black.
Z is for
She's sleeping?
Women in our country has been classified as essential. So this is an issue.
By the way, this is my little sister Valerie, and I'm Jill's husband. Oh no, this is Val, you switched on me. This is my wife. This is my sister. They switched on me.
Freedom!